beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine, it's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lights.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am your host, Jose Galison. Today I am joined by Kyle Anzalone. Probably maybe stick around for maybe about half the show, particularly the foreign policy portion, obviously, since he is a contributor. Don't you actually have a position now? You're like an editor or something over at I forget. I mean, don't want to demote you, but I forget if you actually have a position over at Libertarian Institute. But I know you're a journalist. You write a lot of great pieces over there. But you are particularly, your sphere is foreign policy over the Libertarian Institute, and obviously regularly being featured in antiwar.com. But yeah, Kyle, pleasure to have you on. We haven't had a discussion in a format like this in years. I was on your show forever ago, but pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. My official title at the Institute is news editor. I usually write 3-4 news stories there a day. Also news editor at judgenap.com and opinion editor at antiwar.com. And then I host 2 shows, Conflicts of Interest, which I had you on previously. Mm-hmm. Now that's more, I think, probably similar to this, where I just kind of go over news. I have a new interview show where I have like a producer, higher quality, and that's the Kyle Anzalone show. I don't know how I can't remember the name of the show with my name in it. But thanks for having me on. A dope intro. I loved the intro of this. This is really cool.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's Laney Habermock. He's on Twitter. Go hit him up. He was the regular before Tower Gang broke up. He was the one who made all our video edits and stuff, and he made a couple things for me. He's really great at it. So I don't know. I've been tried to pay him to do things. He's always just done it for me occasionally. So I don't know if for anyone out there interested in it, maybe he'd be willing to let you pay him for some stuff, but he is just kind of the artist mind that when he's inspired, he makes it for you, and that's what he did. But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, we're going to be probably talking about a little bit of bummer topics, but let's kind of start off with, as a little icebreaker for the audience. I always say we do this while we wait for the rest of the class to show up, but let's play a little video about our current head of the FBI, just for a little funsies. Oh, God, give me a second. Sorry, StreamYard's giving me issues already. I had it set up, and it immediately already is giving me audio issues, so I'm going to set it back up again. Here we go. Sorry, I don't mean to walk you through the behind the scenes, but it does this dumb stuff. But all right, let's go ahead and play this, and then we'll have a little talk about it.
You cannot make this stuff up. Apparently, the FBI director, Kash Patel, had written a trilogy of children's book. It's called The Plot Against the King, in which he portrayed himself as Kash the Knight. There's Donald Trump, called the King Donald. There's Hillary Clinton, called Evil Hillary Queentown. Basically, Kash the Knight helps King Donald to kick out Hillary Queentown. You can't be serious. After that is achieved, he helps King Donald to steal the election from Sleepy Joe. Oh my God. But wait, there's a dragon called the DOJ. But it's not called the Department of Justice. It's called the Dragon of Jalapenos. Okay, what is happening? I thought Valhalla was the beginning, but no. This guy lives in fantasy world forever. There is Valhalla, there is We'll Keep the Watch from Game of Thrones, I believe, and a trilogy of children's book. Oh my God.
All right, so that's I know we're just making fun of Kash. I just kind of a little fun. That is a thing that I've heard brought up a lot recently with some stuff for some reason. Maybe just kind of all the embarrassments that's come along with Kash, but that is a thing. He did write a children's book. I guess this is an indictment on all people who write children's books, but I don't know. I think it speaks to a little bit someone's state of mind. What's going on with you, man? What do you think, Kyle?
No, this is absolutely crazy. And one of the craziest parts about it to me is during the first Trump administration, if you will remember, Kash Patel was one of the few people who actually was able to, in any kind of meaningful way, kind of bring the official story of Russiagate to light and explain it. And so he was at least one of the more intelligent people in the U.S. government, and he may still be. I mean, that's a reflection on the absolute stupidity of the members of our current government. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking that one of the people who best explained Russiagate is clearly an absolute kook. I mean, now that we're watching him every day as FBI director, the children's book was striking enough that he would publish this thing is great. King Trump, and he's like a knight who's a wizard. It's a really wild book that you would write that. And then what he's done as FBI director, covering up the Epstein stuff after being one of the loudest proponents that there was a real scandal there on his podcast for years and years and years, and the way he handled the Charlie Kirk assassination. The guy's a maniac.
Yeah, it's been frankly pretty insane. It does make you wonder what's going on with this guy. It is funny. You're from the Libertarian Institute, so we spend all this time reading theory and kind of understanding the flaws in government. But when you see these sorts of examples, you're like, we read about it. You're like, in a certain sense, you're like, they don't think it'd be this way, but it do. It is astounding the idea. They're like, I didn't think all this theory was that correct. They really are just that awful. Although I will tell you, from my time and well over a decade in the military and kind of being in the government, yeah, it kind of corresponds. So, and I guess you just have that problem more and more the higher up you get up the chain. All right, let's go into the latest statements from Zelensky. Get right into foreign policy. I guess there's an Axios show now. I saw this recently, which. If you are someone who gets all schizo and want to connect dots, I do find it weird that Axios did just recently drop and has a whole big podcast and getting all these big guests. And they were also Axios has been kind of the point man for a lot of the weird leaks that came out in Epstein and stuff like that. So if you are someone that's like, oh no, they're controlling everything, you're like, this is weird. I don't know what to make of it, that Axios, I don't really know much of them as a publisher, but it is weird that they seem to have all these scoops, kind of like a Klippenstein almost, but right. But with more of a corporate vibe, so it's a little bit more shady. So you're like, what the hell is going on? So
maybe just to add an important detail here, this video, at least the tweet you have, is from Barack Ravid, who's a former, I believe, Israeli. He was definitely in the IDF. I believe he was military intelligence.
Was he 8200 guy? Or
what?
Was he an 8200 guy, or am I misremembering that? Maybe that's somebody else.
I believe so. And of course, now he's the journalist for Axios, but he's whenever you see a major report from Axios, if it's Ukraine or Israel, this is almost always the guy who has the scoop. And he was the White House Correspondents' Dinner Journalist of the Year in 2024, I believe. So this guy is deep in the deep state.
Yeah. So if you are someone that's schizophrenic and reading this stuff, it's telling you a lot, just the people presenting it right off the jump. And I was just thinking about just now, like we mentioned, that it was Axios that got a lot of those initial scoops of the Epstein stuff, ahead of time, the reports. And so it's we played yesterday on the show when we had Ken on, that recent video of Tucker Carlson where he was saying that apparently, Netanyahu is going all over the world telling people that he owns Trump. And it's like, okay, you have Axios dropping this stuff. You have these Barack Ravid connections. You're like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It seems like one of those. Every now and then, I know maybe some people think they're a real boy, and the news comes out. But let's go ahead and play this, because on the thing of whether this guy's a real boy or not, we'll get into it. But obviously, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. But we've gone full 180 when it comes to Russia, Ukraine. Let's see what this little adorable man has to say.
If we will have such long distance weapon from the United States, we will use it against Moscow. Look, it's not about it. Look, we are not terrorists. Even our people for today, they hate Russians. because they began the war and they killed us. But all our people understand that we don't need to attack civilians. But if we know what does it mean, the rules of this war. So we will attack their military, but if they will do blackout for us, and if we will have long distance weapon, more strong weapon from the United States, we will attack their energy.
And they attacked the Prime Minister's office.
Yeah, they attacked.
So if what would you tell somebody who works at the Kremlin today? Would you tell him to make sure he knows where the nearest bomb shelter is?
First of all, they have to know where their bomb shelters are. They need it. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case. And they have to know that we in Ukraine, each day we will answer. If they will attack us, we will answer them.
Okay, well, obviously that's kind of a big deal. I don't know. I mean, I will admit, like, I'm kind of laughing because it is like the maybe it's the Ukrainian to English, like it's this tough guy act, and it just doesn't really kind of like go through when you can't really express it properly. So it's kind of like but it does seem like obviously that he was kind of being given the perfect little layup for let's be real, a threat against the Kremlin, and kind of you could see kind of in the heart of your territory attacks on you or your people type thing. So obviously this is more intentional threats while we're pairing this with the 180 that's going on. For example, as Dave reported recently, Trump was made aware of Ukrainian counteroffensive plan that requires U.S. intelligence support. So we had him yesterday, Trump going out, kind of doing the 180 and acting like, oh, well, just kind of let everybody have, everyone have a fun time. We're staying out of it. If you need some weapons, holler at us. Well, if you want to buy them. Meanwhile, likely we'll be providing intelligence support the whole way through. And who knows if this ends up sliding right back into some sort of actual, like, legitimate substantive. Not that we aren't really providing substantive support, but you know what I mean. This weird game that they sort of play of, like, dancing around what's technically being involved in the war and what's not. But I guess just thoughts, anywhere you want to go with it. I mean, this is, I was never really one who was too hopeful that anything was really going to come of this. I was frankly kind of wanted to slap the idiot libertarians that were like, well, at least the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm like, okay, well, I don't think you're gonna get either. We're gonna dial up stuff in Israel, and I was pretty dang right. But I don't know, just thoughts. What do you think? What's going on here?
Well, my first thought after seeing this is I thought of the when Trump on the campaign trail was sitting down with Theo Von, and it's clear that he doesn't understand cocaine addiction, and so I think this is a result of that, because before this, Trump made a post on Truth Social about how Ukraine could win the war and Russia's a paper tiger. And not only can Ukraine return to its original borders, but they could even take some of Russia. Now, clearly this is absurd. Nobody in their right mind believes it. And even the Wall Street Journal, I think Dave mentions it in this article, and I also wrote an article for JudgeNap.com where the Washington Post talked to sources in the White House and said, that was a negotiation tactic. That was meant to kind of be a bluff towards the Kremlin to drive them back to the table. But if you say it's to somebody with a cocaine addiction, right? If you tell him that he could run through that brick wall over there, you could probably have talked him into that as well. And so Donald Trump, Zelensky believes it. Now,
he is on cocaine.
Right. I really do think that's like a piece of all of this, is that Donald Trump really doesn't understand Zelensky's mindset and mentality. I'm not sure how much of the drugs are a part of it, but certainly.
Yeah, it was just being silly.
Zelensky is absolutely insane and is least high on power, if not additionally some cocaine. So I really think that Donald Trump maybe misplayed his hand here, and there's nothing for the Ukrainians to do. There's a real fundamental problem coming up for the Ukrainians. They want they say they're going to need $120 billion next year to wage the war against Russia. They say, we could come up with about 60 billion. And I think that's a stretch even then. But that relies on Europe to come up with 60 billion, which they're simply not going to do. I think they're at like $2 billion so far. And so unless Donald Trump is going to radically change and go back to the Biden policy of sending at least $30 to $40 billion a year to the Ukrainians, then there's just no way that they're going to be able to continue this war, and they're going to lose it. And by making Zelensky think it's possible that he's going to win this war, rather than negotiating from a realistic standpoint to end the conflict, Ukraine's going to end up losing everything. Now, I'm not sure that Russia would go as far as to, like, say, cross the Dnieper River further up north and, like, take Kiev. I don't think they're interested in taking the areas of Western Ukraine, but Ukraine could lose its entire access to the Black Sea. They could lose Odessa. Like, there could be major consequences for Ukraine for choosing to fight on at this point. And I saw the Russian. He's now, like, in the National Security Council, but he was the foreign president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, was saying this morning that, look, if Ukraine thinks that they're going to go down the road of conducting decapitation strikes in Moscow and Putin's going to be hiding in his bunkers, we have nuclear weapons. There is no escaping. There is no bunker deep enough to escape from Russia's military arsenal. And so I really don't think Zelensky understands the situation at hand. And it should be a surprise, right? He was a comic who played the piano with his penis. That was his big thing before he became president of Ukraine. So how are we to think that, you know, he would be able to understand the complexities of war and geopolitics and be able to come to a reasonable conclusion and end the conflict?
To go back to, I guess, even given, because it sounds like, you know, a lot of people want to give, whether this is the truth or not, it's believable. I don't necessarily mean to cast doubt on it, but that this is some sort of negotiating thing from Trump. I think that kind of speaks to kind of his ineffectiveness a little bit, at least under current situations, because as you mentioned, obviously the dynamic of, like, oh, you know, how does this affect Zelensky? But even still, we have the trap that he could be falling into on the domestic side. Oh, I just realized I had the volume way up. There we go. On the domestic side of things, I mean, hell, we just had the story out recently where his ambassador Kellogg was threatening to beat the hell out of, or not threatening, I guess the way he said it was like, we could beat your ass type deal, like they could kick Russia's ass. In this, like, back and forth. So we have these, even domestic side of things, you have this trap that seemingly is primed to be fallen into. So if we have people, like, at the top, like, giving any sort of level of umbrage to this idea of re-engaging the war, you have both parties here primed and ready to take that. So this is kind of a ratchet effect type thing where when he puts out energy anti-war, none of the people who matter really buy into it, because nothing's being offered. Really either. But whenever war is signaled towards that, you know, the ratchet effect comes in play, and we'll move towards that because the power players actually want that. So I don't know if there's anything to be said there, but it's kind of like, I know everyone wants to 5D chess, but really it's just kind of an idiot playing checkers is really what it is, because it's like you think you're being super smart and saying all these crazy things, and I don't know, maybe it's a second term that people are just getting hip to it, and you're like, oh, he just makes crazy claims, and, like, we shouldn't really see that as a reflection of reality, and people are maybe just getting used to it. I don't know. I just is like, I mean, I feel like I sound like a liberal from 2016, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, you can only play the same tactic for so long before people, like, see the deal, and they're like, okay, now this doesn't work anymore, and this is actually causing genuine problems.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I do think you identify a really big problem there, where if Donald Trump does, you know, the article from the Washington Post, the official said, you know, the Trump's rhetoric saying that Ukraine could win the war doesn't reflect a change in U.S. policy. We're not going to send Ukraine more weapons. We're just, you know, this is all just rhetoric, right? It's directed at Russia. It's meant to change Russia's policy, but we're not going to change ours. However, if Trump does decide to bend on that, Congress will act within minutes to pass a massive supplemental aid bill to send another $100 billion or whatever the hell number they want to Ukraine. Right now, there's a bill sitting in the Senate with 80 co-sponsors, an absolute unheard of number, that would place 500% tariffs on China, India, and possibly Brazil for trading with Russia. All is the Senate is literally waiting. They go to the White House all the time. They're saying, please, Mr. President, please say we could pass this bill. The second he does, they're going to pass that. I'm sure the House will, and then it'll become law. Lindsey Graham, complete lunatic, sponsor of the bill, called it the most draconian legislation he has ever seen in the Senate. And, he's been there for 30 years now. So obviously there's been some Patriot Act, draconian legislation. And he's saying this is the worst thing that he's ever seen. So Congress is loaded up and ready to go. And Trump just doesn't have the mental fortitude to implement the policy that he ran on. And that's the reason I didn't support Trump the second time around. One of the problems I identified was that he wasn't able to make a deal with Kim Jong-un, right? He did meet with Kim 3 times. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula were reduced during his presidency. That was a good thing. But he wasn't able to finalize a deal and really end the tensions there, end the Korean War officially, and, establish a real relationship with North Korea. Likewise, he made the deal with the Taliban, but Trump's been very clear. He was never going to leave Bagram. And I'm sure maybe there's some remote possibility that the U.S. could have kept the Bagram Air Base without staying at war with the Taliban in Afghanistan, but I don't think it would really be possible. I think the U.S. would probably have to have trucks going through Afghanistan fairly regularly to resupply the Bagram Air Base from Pakistan, which is a long and difficult transit. I mean, this would have required a lot of work with the Taliban, exposing the U.S. forces to ISIS-K, bombings and things like that. It was a really stupid idea. He was not planning on ending the war in Afghanistan. And so Trump cannot actually make a deal in geopolitics. It requires you to be able to push back against your own party, push back against your own administration, to speak clearly and consistently to the American people and sell them on the idea that peace is going to be profitable for them. And Trump simply can't do that. And if he couldn't do that with relatively minor issues as far as the U.S. empire goes, like North Korea, like Afghanistan, how could he ever stand up to the weight of the U.S. deep state when it came to Ukraine and Israel? And obviously he can't. And we're just seeing the president bend more and more and more until I think eventually we're going to kind of be at the Biden policy where we're effectively sending arms to Ukraine, even if I think they're going to try to mask it a little bit. They're going to say that, you get 50% ownership in this Ukrainian company that owns an undeveloped mine somewhere in Russia-controlled Ukraine. Right.
Yeah, and it's half bought by and it's like they'll sell it as a sale, but then like half of it will be covered by like aid or something,
Right. So yeah, they're going to give us half ownership in a company that doesn't exist. It's never going to mine anything. It's never
pure
going
communism.
to turn a profit. Right. And then we're going to send them weapons for half ownership in a fictional company. They're doing the same thing with their drones. They're telling the Pentagon that we will give American companies ownership over the intellectual property for the drones that I'm guessing the CIA actually developed for the Ukrainians. And
whoa, Palantir. That's what we call them. Okay.
Right. So we're going to give like the Department of Defense ownership over the intellectual property there in exchange for billions of dollars from the U.S. So the Trump administration is going to come up with schemes. It's not going to be necessarily direct U.S. military aid, but I think we're effectively going down that road in the coming year.
Yeah, and then it kind of on speaking to his ineffectual leadership and what's going on there. We've got this report. It's a sources say story, I think, but apparently, according to kind of behind the scenes Muslim leaders, apparently Trump's going around telling people that he won't allow Israel to annex the West Bank. But I just find it curious that, and obviously we talked about Tucker Carlson quote, that he's saying that Netanyahu's saying he owes him. And at the same time, we have members of the cabinet, or actually I don't know if it's a cabinet. Wait, no, it is. It's the Minister of Science and Technology. Saying stuff like, we will make the Gaza Strip uninhabitable until the population leaves. And the same thing will happen in Judea and Samaria. And hell, we just had Netanyahu the other day after he basically said the same in slightly more friendly language, but basically like in response to like Keir Starmer and stuff recognizing Palestine as a state, he kind of said like, we're going to continue to annex. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but like, hey, Yeah, they're planning on moving on to the West Bank and I don't know if they're going to go full on as hard as they did in Gaza, but hell, I've already played on this show videos of them marching out, dozens of Israelis, or not Israelis, but Gazans, West Banks, whatever the hell you call those people in the West Bank. I guess Palestinians, just marching them out of their homes with their hands behind their back, and now they're just kind of like Trail of Tears type style, just you hear these cleansed words like annexing, and it doesn't really quite do it justice to what it really is. It's kind of frankly pretty horrible. Just thoughts. Do you think Trump, there's any chance in hell, or is this more of him just saying shit? Because that's what he does a lot. He just says shit. Like, for example, I'm sure you're aware, I can't even remember which two countries it is, but hell, he's even bloviated at the UN about how these two countries he helped come to some sort of peace deal recently that, like, apparently, according to them, they're like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And that's not the first time I've heard these stories. This is like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, something like that time where he just says shit, just makes up wild stories that major world leaders can tell you is complete bullshit, and he just does it anyways. He's legitimately like compulsive liar level type bullshitter. So I just thoughts.
Yeah, are you referring to the Congo Rwanda deal?
Probably.
I think so. Yeah,
one of many deals, probably.
He had the leaders to the White House, and they negotiated a deal, and they signed it. And the people in the Congo, where the war is actually going on, didn't notice. Right? Mm-hmm. Nothing changed for them, but Trump signed this deal and had handshakes and pretended he made peace. And so that is kind of the situation with Trump. Now, with this meeting, he had this meeting with Arab leaders. And it was really a response to the Israeli assassination attempt of Hamas leadership in Qatar, right? Where Israel flew, I believe, F-35s and F-22, so American aircraft, likely launched American missiles at a house in Doha, a major non-NATO U.S. ally, the home of America's largest airbase in the Middle East, and I believe killed 6 people in total, 5 lower-level Hamas officials and a Qatari official. Obviously, the Qataris, the Saudis were really outraged about this for a number of reasons. One, the missiles flew over Saudi airspace and then flew into Qatar. And America has massive air defense systems in these countries.
Weren't we involved in the refueling operations, or am I misremembering that?
I know we are involved with the refueling operations for Iran. I'm not sure Israel would have needed our help refueling here because they launched these missiles from over the Red Sea.
Okay.
So they're probably able to do it without American
I just know
assistance.
In one of the numerous things that went on recently, there were times where, the United States tried to position of like, oh no, oh wow, how crazy. And then being like, but you're the one refueling. And you're like, yeah, but we had nothing to do with it. Like, you're refueling them. So I guess not this example, but there's been other times. So, but that is a base where refuelers do deploy to. I was actually, the only time I ever deployed to the military was to Qatar. So it was to the air base there. So, which is just a normal air base. It's way away from everything. You can go out pretty much any weekend you want and go out to the town that got fucking exploded by Israel. So, just thought that's interesting. It's weird when you're like been there and it's not like, because people see it here and they think just Turkestan. You're like, I mean, I don't know, maybe, but it's pretty, so far as like westernized, like even just from that vibe, not that it makes it okay to bomb them otherwise, but it is just like, it is pretty wild. It is an incredible, I mean, they've done a good job of like seeding the groundwork of creating this perception of Qatar over the past year. When it's like, for anyone who's like military or anything like that, it's been there. It's like complete opposite of the weird spin that we've gotten over the past year. So, I mean, hell, you're even aware, like even the stupid positioning. We had Netanyahu just recently complaining about Qatar with these saying, supporting terrorism, when it's like, you were the one facilitating the payments. They were coming through you. Right. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just ranting, but it is nuts.
No. It's all very good points that, Netanyahu presents the Hamas leadership in Qatar as an existential threat to Israel. However, they were meeting to discuss a Trump proposal that would have released all of the Israeli hostages, every single one of them, before a ceasefire was put into effect, and with no guarantee that Israel would end the war in the end. Basically, a complete Hamas capitulation to Israel is what the leadership was mean to discuss in Qatar. And so, really, that's not some great threat to Israel. They're meeting should have been seen in any realistic view of what Israel wants in Gaza as a positive, as moving towards a deal that Israel could accept. It was problematic for Netanyahu and many members of the Israeli government whose true goal in Gaza is not the release of the hostages, but to keep the hostages in Gaza to have a pretext to carry out a genocide.
To add to that, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, but I did want to not let it go without being mentioned. You may recall this little detail, but that specific deal that they were meeting over was the one that they oddly thought was was pointed out days ahead of time that they had received the note. We got reports or the message or whatever, and the dialect, the syntax, I guess you could say, that was used very much heavily implied it was not written by an American. You know what I mean? Like it was kind of written like the implication was like an Israeli or something. There was lots of things to imply that this was literally like as if they like at our behest or on our behalf, here you go, here's a deal for the United States through the Israelis. So, and then, shortly after, so point being is that, and I know I'm mixing up the 12-day war thing. They called that the Red Wedding. But either way, it is very much Red Wedding-esque in the idea of like, here, come here, and then we're going to kill you.
No, absolutely. It seemed that they tried to roll out the same playbook there again. And yeah, it does seem that like, I don't think it's hard to imagine a scenario where the Israelis go to Mike Huckabee and they say, deliver this note to Donald Trump, and this is what we would like to see be in the end deal. Huckabee takes the note, doesn't actually make notes. He just translates it, probably uses, Chat GPT to translate from Hebrew to English, sends it to the White House. The White House looks at it, they say, this looks good. They send it to Hamas. Right. That seems to be essentially what happened here. And they were meeting to discuss that deal when Netanyahu carried out the attack. And I was just going to add one more detail. We actually saw this previously. This was reported in the Times of Israel. I covered it in the spring. So this is coming from Israeli sources that when the U.S. government was negotiating with Hamas, it was Trump's hostage boy, Adam Boehler, was meeting with Hamas to discuss the release of Edon Alexander, the last remaining Israeli hostage held by Hamas. Boehler got a call from the Israeli Strategic Affairs Minister, Ron Dermer, who's actually an American who is now Netanyahu's closest confidant and also a frequent visitor to the White House. Dermer read Boehler the riot act for a meeting with Hamas, and the Times of Israel made it clear that they were concerned that Trump would lose interest in supporting Israel to the degree that he is if there weren't any American lives on the line inside of Gaza. And so there we could see Israel intentionally wanting the hostage to remain in place when they would have had to give up nothing. Hamas was just willing to give him up as a measure of good faith. Israel didn't want that to happen because their incentive is to continue the war and they need American support to do so. So I think it's pretty clear why Netanyahu made sure that this meeting didn't result in a deal. But anyway, to get back to the original point, that's the reason Trump was meeting with all these Arab leaders. And I think they had three primary concerns for Trump. And two of them I remember are Israel not annexing the West Bank and Israel not committing more assassination strikes in, Arab states. And so, of course, Trump is going to go in and tell them, I'm not going to allow that anymore because the Qataris, I believe, pledged to invest like $1.2 trillion in the American economy. And so Trump doesn't want to lose that. And also, all these countries do have alternatives. They could decide that it's not so much worth it to pay all this money to the Americans and still get attacked by the Israelis. And so we're going to make a deal with China. We're going to make a deal with Iran. We don't need the United States when, again, being a client state of Washington doesn't even ensure your protection from another U.S. client state. And so I think it's predictable that Trump said this and absolutely meaningless because the Israelis have made it clear that they are moving forward with at least de facto annexation of the West Bank, if not full on. We're actually out in the open doing it. One of the things they're doing for any libertarian, this should be particularly just like the most disgusting kind of communistic abuse of power ever. They gave the finance minister Bezalel Smotrich the power to either qualify or disqualify anybody's deed to their house. And so let's say you could prove that your family lived on this land for 200 years. Your great grandfather built the original house on this property. This is your family's land 100%. This guy could just say, no, it's not, and give it to somebody else. And you have no right, no recourse whatsoever. That's just the situation in the West Bank now. And that's a part of the plan to take some remaining Palestinian homes, demolish some, build some Israeli homes there, and then they're going to completely bisect the West Bank. And so at that point, it doesn't really even matter whether or not Israel officially declares the West Bank is Israeli territory. It's going to de facto make sure that a Palestinian state will never exist, and therefore this is Israeli territory.
Yeah, that's a concept I do always try to explain to my audience, because it is even confusing for me to wrap my head around sometimes the way in which the the settling process works, and how these words like annex and stuff, it's more like that's really just when the government, is just kind of acknowledging what is really sort of happening and putting a semi-official stamp to some degree. It's always some sliding scale between which is kind of very much like pogrom type behavior, the idea of the government's kind of anarcho-tyranny looking away type thing. But then you get to a certain point where they just kind of own it and go, yep, we're annexing it. And by the time they're doing that, it's kind of already annexed anyways, likely. But I think the world is maybe getting sick of it, and kind of this runaround they're getting from people like Trump. At a certain point, we have things like BRICS going on from our reaction, they're kind of a reaction from our interactions with Russia in the war, but I think we're going to see similar such things with Israel, and I really do think we're kind of in an interesting geopolitical times. Things are shifting very bigly, and I think within the next 10 years, we're going to be looking at a very different paradigm. What that means for us, what that means for Israel, I'm unsure, but I think things like this story that we're looking at right now are kind of a sign of the times. We have Spain imposes a total arms embargo on Israel. This is from that you wrote this over at the Libertarian Institute, and I did want to pair that with too. I find it particularly interesting now that apparently Spain and Italy have come to the aid of the Gaza flotillas that had recently been attacked, and they're sending warships. Now I think they're just escorting them somewhat. I'm assuming the plan is probably to ditch them when they get to past international waters, but even just this whole show, I don't know, I find it interesting. Just kind of your general thoughts. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be as minuscule as what this means for the flotilla experiment here. This also just kind of, bigger macro picture, what this means for the world going forward. Because I do think they're over it. I don't know. This game is, this is unsustainable. So just what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess, two thoughts. The good news would be, I do think Israel is going to be increasingly isolated even among Europeans. I believe the Eurovision, I think that's what it calls. It's like this stupid thing that the Europeans do where people from different countries write songs and vote on it like it's American Idol. I don't get it. It's a political thing. Ukrainian won 2 years in a row because the song was about fighting for their brave Nazis or whatever the hell. But when it comes to Israel, they are talking about excluding the Israelis. And again, this is Eurovision, so why the hell would Israel even participate in the first place? But I think it's an effort by Tel Aviv to whitewash their public image. They're also talking about kicking Israel out of some of the soccer leagues and tournaments. This is maybe a little bit of a bigger deal, culturally, to the Europeans. And so I think it'll hurt Israel's image in Europe and kind of reinforce the fact that this isn't a normal state, that this state is in the middle, even if not a genocide, in the middle of something absolutely horrific in Gaza. The problem really is all these countries could impose arms embargoes on Israel. All these countries could cut ties with Israel. The only country that really matters to Israel is the United States of America. And that means the only man that really matters is Donald Trump. And whether I know people speculate on blackmail. I think it's just Trump wants his legacy to be, for whatever reason, Trump believes it's important that his legacy is being the most pro-Israel president the United States has ever had. I wanted an American first president, but that's what Trump wants to be. And so that means never, ever, ever standing up to Netanyahu, never disagreeing with him. You can say you're frustrated with him every now and then, but never cutting arms sales, never leveraging anything to Israel, never telling Israel no in a meaningful way. And that's what Trump is engaged in doing.
Mm-hmm. All right, we also have over in Syria. Oh, actually, I guess he's over here right now. But he's met up with Marco Rubio over the UN. Shara, a former head of Al Qaeda. Here's Jimmy Dore posting about it. He says, predicted on the Showmate Times, as the CIA was successful in their dirty war to overthrow the Assad government, then Al Qaeda would take over the country. For what I was labeled a conspiracy theorist by fact checkers funded by the CIA in an attempt to silence truth. Yeah, that is exactly what happened, and now the head of Al Qaeda in Syria has changed his name, changed his clothing of a terrorist to a suit and tie, and is the president of Syria and publicly welcomed by the U.S. and the Secretary of State. Al Qaeda and ISIS are inventions of the U.S. and Israel to do their dirty work and provide a pretext for bombing and overthrowing governments wherever and whenever they want. Americans have been played for 25 years, and sadly, even this won't wake them up. And then to add to this, I just thought this was Jason Ditz wrote last night or yesterday. He said he wrote a piece about kind of some quotes Shara had to say about it, and he's made statements that apparently he's scared of essentially of Israel. I don't know why I had a brain fart with that right there. I was looking for he said, we are not the ones creating problems for Israel. We are scared of Israel, not the other way around, which I've commented on this show multiple times how bizarre this whole situation looks from the outside in. If you are aware of what's going on in Syria, the insane levels of sectarian violence, the taking of the land, and an almost nary a peep coming from the officials, if anything, kind of an allowing because they don't seem to want to rock that boat. You also have, him regularly interacting with Tom Barak, who's doing the same such things to all these nations over here. I mean, obviously, we're talking about Syria here. We have Tom Barak bullying Lebanon with nonsensical requests. But just this whole scenario, and then you have literal, what are technically head chopper terrorists that are scared of Israel and kind of, frankly, acting like little bitches on the world stage. So I know just kind of thoughts about all of this, because this is kind of we're just in a weird time. And just, you see... I think we're just kind of in one of those periods of time where, I don't know, mask off. I think it was kind of a lot of those dynamics I talked about earlier kind of really coming into play. We're at this, I think Israel's racing for the gold, so it's super obvious what's going on. We're their financial backer. Although I think you did point out, like, as you said, like Israel, all they need is us, and you're correct. But unfortunately, they may only need us, but at some point, that dynamic fucks us. Because, like, I know, as I was pointing to BRICS, at a certain point, there becomes, you can only do this us against everybody for so long. And Israel will have completely parasitically sucked off everything they wanted out of us from that point, and we may be the ones holding the bag. So I don't know how that looks, but we are in interesting times. I just think it's, like, particularly naked and mask off everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, no, this really probably pisses me off more than anything else. I grew up after 9/11. I was like 10 years old on 9/11. And so most of my childhood, I remember, red alert, yellow alert for the, terrorist levels, orange. They had all the color things they did. And then every year it was, are they going to attack the Super Bowl? Are they going to attack Christmas? And Al Qaeda, we could get along with Russia, North Korea, Venezuela, Iran, China, all without making any real kind of concessions that hurt the United States of America. If there is a group of people in the world who want to actually hurt Americans, it is members of Al Qaeda. And so that we would welcome the founder of Al Qaeda in Syria, Abu Mohammed al-Jilani, who's changed his name to al-Shara, trimmed up his beard, put on a suit in New York City. It is just unfathomable to me. I was really hoping it was going to end like the South Park episode on New Jersey, where they bring him up on stage and just shoot him in the back of the head or something like that. That was all a stunt just to make him easy to kill. But, as anti-war as I am, if I were president, the one thing I would be telling my military, my CIA, keep an eye on the jihadist lunatics. Do not let a single one of them anywhere near the United States of America or any of our military bases. These people are lunatics. They want to kill, and we cannot allow that to happen. And here you had Donald Trump welcome. He actually met with this guy in New York City. David Petraeus sat down at an event with Jolani. It's unfathomable to me that something like that could possibly happen. I was so pissed off. It's even hard to articulate how angry this makes me, that we can't get along with Putin. We can't sit down with the Iranian leaders. We can't sit down with Maduro, but Jolani, we could welcome back into the Western fold. Well, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Now, this has worked out really well for Israel, who for years and years and years, along with the United States of America, and maybe to just do a little correction of what Jimmy Dore said, I don't think ISIS and Al-Qaeda are inventions of the U.S. and Israel. They are tools of the U.S. and Israel. You know, I think that these groups kind of formed out of, you know, the natural resistance to the U.S. invasion of Iraq, and that's really how they became prominent. But I don't think like the CIA invented the Islamic State or al-Nusra, right? Like they were groups that were homegrown in response to oppression in the U.S. war in Iraq. But that being said, the U.S. and Israel helped them in a number of ways by undermining the government of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, creating a power vacuum for them to grow and fester. Israel provided certainly medical assistance to the Al-Qaeda fighters in southern Syria through the conflict. Every time the Syrian government would try to kill some of the terrorists that were hiding out on the Syria-Israel border, Israel would bomb the Syrian forces. The U.S. actually provided a lot of arms and training to these guys. And so we certainly fueled and helped to put Jolani in power in Damascus. But then once he takes power, Israel goes, oh no, there's jihadists in Syria. They control the country. We have to bomb it. We have to invade it. And so now Tel Aviv has this pretext to drop, I think like in the first week or two after Jolani's government takes over, they drop like 800 bombs all over Syria, destroy all the military bases. They've now invaded. They're essentially in the suburbs of Damascus, right? They control all of southwest Syria at this point. And look, the greater Israel people, they want to annex it. You know, there's been rabbis and settlers going there talking about how this is now Israeli land. Yeah. And
Netanyahu laughed at the idea of giving back land. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I might have a little bit of delay. But yeah, Netanyahu laughed at the idea of giving back land. So
yeah. No, they're not going to give it back. And so this played out exactly how Israel wanted it to. I think overall they're going to want to, I guess, you know, get rid of Jolani just because his government is full of all the jihadists that he was with in whatever he renamed his al-Nusra al-Qaeda group at the end. I think he was calling it Harit Tahrir al-Sham. Before he ultimately abandoned it. But, you know, there's like Chechen jihadists that are in his defense ministry right now. And so I do think Israel is going to be uncomfortable with that. And ultimately, they prefer instability and chaos. Yep. One of the Israel's core concerns with Syria right now is they want to be able to continue to use Syrian airspace to bomb Iran. And so making sure that Syria has no real military is the way to do that.
All right, last foreign policy story. I just kind of want to get your thoughts. Yemen, I guess, snuck one in, these crazy bastards. Well, I don't necessarily support it, I guess, necessarily them attacking Israel here, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not like, I mean, I get it. I mean, you know, back and forth. Like they're doing it on from their perspective, from like a principled, like, hey, you know, we're here for the Palestinians, and also to some extent, fuck you, Israel. For that energy, I could agree with. Obviously, I do feel like they're probably mixing up innocent people in here. So, but hey, they snuck one through. I mean, just kind of, what are your thoughts on Yemen? I mean, this is just intractable. I don't even really. It's almost like Israel's going to keep bombing them, and I don't really know what there is, I guess, substantive. I know it sounds awful to say because there are people dying, but I mean, so far as anything changing the scenario, I would assume this is probably just going to continue on like this. But either way, my point being is I don't think like Israel's going to be able to do anything to get Yemen to stop. And if they do try to mess with it like we did, they're just probably going to make the problem worse like we did. But just thoughts. Is there anything to be, you know, looked into? I mean, It looks like Israel tried to like do a couple ramping up and really show them they mean business, but it doesn't seem like it's making a difference. Like I know they just recently had that bombing that took, I believe Sean King might have got it wrong. He was reporting that it was the most journalists ever killed. I believe it was the most killed since like 2009 or something, basically like 15 years. But still, either way, they've kind of ramped up the attacks here and there. But just thoughts. Do you just think this is intractable and it's going to kind of keep going, or what?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Houthis or Ansar Allah. I know people like to use the different names, but Houthi is the most common, so I tend to use that one. Yeah, they have the blockade of the Israeli shipping in the Middle East. I think that's really the main prong of what they're doing. Israel's Red Sea port has effectively been shut down. The leadership of the port say they need like $1 million a month from the Israeli government just to stay open at this point. Business has reduced like 95%. So the blockade is effective. I'm not sure how effective the drone strikes and missiles are. This is a rare one that gets through. Most of them get shot down by Israel. Maybe the Houthis kind of estimate that this is somewhat dividing Israel's air defense capabilities. They can't keep all of their radars and systems trained to the east. They have to have some to the south to make sure that they're prepared for any drones and missiles incoming from Yemen. And they have some pretty complex and advanced drones too. Like I believe one of their drones actually flew out over the Mediterranean and then came back and hit Israel from the west. And so, this has caused Tel Aviv some problems on the military front, although, not many of these drones and missiles get through. I don't think there's any real indication that this is going to like do any damage to Israel or destabilize Netanyahu's government. From the Houthis' perspective, I think this has not only been effective in shutting down the Israeli shipping and helping the Palestinians, but also cementing themselves as maybe the most legitimate resistance force in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. I mean, Iran agreed to a ceasefire with Israel after 12 days without Israel agreeing to a ceasefire in Gaza. The Houthis haven't done it. They've withstood massive bombing campaigns, not only for 8 years from the Saudis, but also for a year and a half from the U.S., from Israel for, on and off for the past year and a half. And they've shown real resistance and no diminishment of their capabilities. I mean, they caused the US F-18 to fall off an aircraft carrier, which meant that they were not that far from hitting a U.S. aircraft carrier with an anti-ship ballistic missile, which I don't think any other country in the world has the capability to they always say, oh, the Houthis get their weapons from Iran. I don't think Iran even has anti-ship ballistic missiles. And so they have a homegrown defense base. And from reporting inside of Yemen, for the journalists who weren't killed in that slaughter, they say that the more and more strikes that Israel carries out against Yemen, particularly when they hit civilian infrastructure, this is just rallying more people to the Houthi cause, that there is no risk that the southern forces that are in opposition to the Houthis are going to get the popular support needed to come and take back over the capital city of Sana'a. And so this is going to continue to go on. I'm guessing again that the real pain here is the economic pain from forcing all the ships going to Israel from Southeast Asia to sail all the way around Africa and then go to Israel's Mediterranean ports. I think that has between $5,000 and $10,000 per ship. And then, maybe some increased insurance costs and stuff like that too, but it's not substantial enough for that. I think the real legacy of all this will be the Houthi resistance, and they're probably going to become, somewhat heroic figures in the Arab world following, Israel's genocide in Gaza.
Yeah, I think there's almost like a libertarian message there too, like a high time preference. Like obviously, I would say I disagree overall with their actions, but if you're comparing them to other sovereign nations and how they're behaving, like comparatively, I think this will actually probably pay off for them in the long run. And I think it's obviously the innovation of weapons and stuff. There's obviously it's a double-edged sword type thing, but I think we're entering a new world where I don't know, you're getting less and less to where the big dog can bully the little guys anymore. And this has negative effects, but like hell, even things like say like the Luigi Mangione thing or even the Charlie Kirk thing. While I'm not at all actually those things tend to, tend to backfire. But point being is, if you're in a war and we're in a time where you can sneak a drone into airspace or do this or do that, or even just cyber attacks, all sorts of ways, whether it's finding, impropriety in their personal life, that we are in such a time where an independent actor can do a lot. Now, I'm obviously not advocating certain actions, but especially in the context of like a war like this, and you have a nation like Israel that's in the Middle East, just like Yemen is, it's like the more time ticks on and the more that we innovate, the more of a dangerous game Israel is playing. And while we may be like, oh, it's intractable, this, that, you're like, I don't know. I know we always look at like the future of warfare and get creeped out, but then on the flip side, there's also the, if you're a decentralized somewhat or guerrilla type force, it actually makes you, frankly, probably a far greater threat than the government forces or larger centralized forces would be. So I think there's something to be said there, but I don't know. We're entering weird times, and something as stupid as just one group of ragtag country just saying screw you could actually really end up making a big difference. So.
Yeah, but I think this is the best example of it. But you certainly see it across the Middle East, that like these cheap drones that don't take very much sophistication, that I'm not recommending this, not saying it, but like, people could probably go to their hobby shop and get 90% of what the Houthis are using for some of their drones. What a lot of the Ukrainians are using are just like cheap Chinese hobby drones that, they add a little bit to.
Well, the Israelis were outfitting. The Israelis were outfitting Amazon drones with fucking just grenades, like all crudely. Yeah. So like, this is the world we're in now.
Yeah. And so there is like this weird parody that's been created with increased technology.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're out of the foreign policy portion. This one kind of lingers, and I thought this would be a good caveat from one topic to the other. I think you might stick around with me for this one. You were a little bit interested in the ice shooter thing, but I thought this at least might catch your attention. This would make a good segue from one to the other. But this person posted Gumby for Christ is the account. It says, I realize this is stupid, but I cannot tweet it. Ice shooter Joshua John, which you have his name now, father Andy John, worked for 36 years as an engineer for KONE Incorporated, a company that just so happens to provide escalator maintenance at UN headquarters. Now, obviously, I have no idea that there's some connection, some conspiracy, but here's his what is it called? Your place where you post your whatever. This is his resume. I forget what site you posted. LinkedIn. And then, here's more on this. So this guy seems it. And there recently we had, I know maybe maybe some of you guys missed this, but we had a rather hilarious moment in the UN. You can see a GIF playing over and over again. Apparently, literally the exact moment the first family went to go walk up the stairs, the escalator, it stopped, and they ended up literally just stood there, I guess, until they just decided to screw it and keep going. So they got stairs instead of an escalator, and apparently, though, a lot of people have right off the bat were jumping to conspiracy, saying, "Oh, this was on purpose," and then people are like, "Oh, you're crazy." Well, apparently there were some leaks, I guess, of some like tweets or whatever. I didn't look into it because this is one of those stories that whatever. I don't even care what you believe. The truth is here. It doesn't really matter to me. But it's apparently there were some tweets that seemed to imply there were some pranksters who said some things. I will say it's a little bit lame because it seemed the angle of attack was they were upset about lack of funding. And so like, oh, ha, like you can't even afford the escalator type thing, as opposed to, this would have been definitely more funny if it was for, say, like genocide or something like that. But either way, this guy deserves much worse, obviously after a trial. But so I'm completely down with him being inconvenienced at every little minor point in his life. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? I just thought it was funny that like there's some sort of connection there. But I don't know. Have you been following any of the UN stuff? There is some funnies. I know there was a teleprompter snafu too. But I don't know. I just do think it's hilarious that perhaps there are like staffers out there that are colluding to make it to essentially be like the Jims to his Dwights.
Well, yeah. So. First off, I want to say I think the best example of this apparent like maybe kind of background tit for stat stuff going on was Trump was like going to the UN. And so the police had the road shut down, and the French president, Emmanuel Macron, was trying to leave the UN. And he personally called Trump and said, hey, can you tell these guys that we need to get through? And Trump didn't do it. And so Macron had to like walk with an escort for, I think, 30 minutes in New York City to get to where he needed to go. So there does seem to be a little bit of this, just like really childish kind of, oh, we're going to get Trump. I don't know if turning off Trump's teleprompter is actually something that hurts him. If there's one thing that, he probably is okay with, walking up the escalator is much more effort for him than having to give an off the cuff speech, right? Like, I'm sure teleprompter goes down, he's like, fantastic, I'm just gonna riff for the next 20 minutes, I'm gonna roast some of these countries, like, we're gonna have a good old time up here. But walking up the escalator, probably a lot of work for the old man. So
yeah, I hope every time he sees, I hope any time in his life, for the rest of his life, he sees an alternative to stairs, that it doesn't work and he has to take the stairs. That's what I wish for Donald Trump. That's how much I don't like the guy. Well, Kyle, I think maybe now would actually be a good time to let you go. I mean, you can listen. I'm about to literally read Ken Klippenstein's article, so that's a little bit
I
awkward.
should hop off now and get back to work. But I appreciate you having me on this morning, and great conversation.
No, I appreciate having you on. I'm open to doing it regularly. I do like to cover foreign policy in the show, so we'll definitely have to get you on again sometime. But I don't know if you want to drop your plugs real quick, or maybe you already did and I missed it. But otherwise, we'll see you next time.
Best place to follow me is on my Twitter account at Kyle Anzalone _. I'm like 50 followers right now, short of 10,000. So if any of you don't follow me yet, Kyle Anzalone _ help me get up to 10,000.
Hell yeah, go follow Kyle. If not, we'll have to make one of those posts to get everybody following. But he'll have it soon for sure. He'll definitely crack that 10K. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get into that Ken Klippenstein article like I told you I would. Maybe we'll check into the chat after that. Doctor says, cool conversation. Thank you. See who else is in here. Let's say some good mornings real quick, actually. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Tom33. They said, look, not letting Macron through the roadblock is hilarious no matter what else he's doing. Yeah. Good morning, John Black says, sorry for the convenience. I don't know what we're talking about. Good morning, Comment Mama. Good morning, good morning. Let me see. Good morning, Fire Pixie. Comment Mama with the Mitch Hedberg joke. You know why I love escalators? Because they can never break. They only become stairs. That is a Mitch Hedberg joke. You even said it. That was a Mitch Hedberg joke. There you go. Good morning, Evan. He says every time Jose starts the show at a different time, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's the normal. I started pretty much on time today. I think it was like a minute late. So just saying. Sometimes I may go later, may go earlier, but that is the normal. So good morning, Fire Pixie. Good morning, G Nice. Good morning, Gerald Hall. Good morning, Tower Gang NPC. Saying this guy knows his shit. He sure as hell does. All right. I think I got enough good mornings in. There's a bunch more of y'all in there, but I'm not going to go through all of them. Good morning, Leafy. He says, I normally don't catch live, but I have work off. Hell yeah. Good morning, Mustache. Good times. Good morning. The doctor is saying the chat room's weak. You guys need to step up your chat game and hit that fucking like button. All right, let's go ahead and get into this Klippenstein article, kind of delving into the supposed, the politics of this new one. Obviously, I would just go ahead and say, everything with a grain of salt. I still don't buy. I'm still kind of annoyed with the right in their like faggoty insistence that like they're almost like aghast that anyone would even suggest the possibility of him not being some fucking rampant left-wing homo. Really, it's kind of almost like a mind virus. If anything, it's kind of taken over some of ours too, which I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, get your shit together. I get we don't like Jimmy Kimmel, but Jesus Christ, and like, or all these lefties, and we just have to be so partisan and hate them. But like, let's be objective here. There's always a possibility. I still am not entirely convinced. I mean, what did we get? A ragtag bunch of supposed stuff that were supposedly his chat room things and this and that, and you're like, I don't know. It's dubious. Now, I lean towards that being the case, I guess, like somewhat, but it's definitely not settled. And frankly, it's fucking gay to the degree that the right is being weird about this. So I'm just kind of caveating big time before we go into this. This is just, if anything, it's more of a signal of, I guess, where Ken Klippenstein is at, and he's open to, I guess, being somewhat against the typical narrative. I think he was kind of saying he wasn't as like he put out an article that I meant to cover in the show, but I didn't get that around to a while ago. That was kind of like the actual, because there was all these articles going around about how like, oh, look at all these crazy left wingers that he's hanging out with, and this and that, and like they're kind of, oh, here's this dark corner of the internet that this guy said this thing, and like you just take my word that he was in here and this, and like I don't mean sure maybe. I mean, I don't fucking know. You're just showing me a bunch of chat room nonsense. This could just be a bunch of feds talking to each other. I don't fucking know. So, but yeah, now we have this guy, the Dallas ICE guy. I forgot. I had a thread of thought there that I totally lost. But anyways, we just caveat on big time. Oh, I remember what I was saying. Klippenstein was one that put out an article that was like actually kind of showing a more sympathetic light to a lot of the people who've known him for a long time in different group chats, where we had all these stories that were being seeded out about all these shady this and that. And to be fair, the same thing applies with Klippenstein, because I kind of saw that article too, and it was also like, I kind of also don't really know what I'm looking at here. These are also just some account here, some account there, but they were also accounts that seemingly were ones that were reacting to this. This is a one where like I guess he dropped like, I did it or whatever, and just there were lots of reactions. These are people that supposedly known him for years. I don't know. I don't trust like any of this shit. It's all just fucking names and numbers on a screen. That's all that is to me. But point being is he was kind of counter to that too, and kind of pointing out that like, hey, there were actually a lot of normal people in here, and I think maybe the impression that the news is running with might be a little bit off. Like, sure, maybe he had some trans friends here and there, and I don't know, but there also were people who were like, horrified, and I don't know. There's so much perception nonsense going too, because there's also then people saying, oh, that was just them trying to make it look like they didn't do it. I don't know, but just throwing that all out there. Take all of this with a humongous grain of salt, but also I guess Ken Klippenstein's doesn't necessarily have a problem going against the grain. So I wouldn't necessarily think this is like exactly where everyone is at. But let's go ahead and get into this. This is from Ken Klippenstein, like I said. The deadly sniper attack on a Dallas ICE facility this morning seemed straightforward, with anti-ICE engraved on unspent shell casings recovered from the scene, per the FBI. But after interviewing several of the alleged shooter's former friends, the picture isn't so clear. Within minutes of the shooting, FBI Director Kash Patel wrote on X, while investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. No way. So like minutes after, and then they show the picture, anti-ICE, which I swear that to me looks like someone wrote that on with a ballpoint pen. I swear that does. That does not look like an engraving, but I guess I don't really know what an engraving would look like. I've never engraved a shell, because that's a shell casing, because it's just weird. Who the fuck does that? I don't know. But yeah, so this is so here's the thing. We showed it yesterday. It says anti-ICE on it. It said President Trump responded to the shooting by blaming the radical left, vowing to sign another executive order to dismantle what he called domestic terrorism networks. This comes at the heels of another executive order he signed this week designating Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, as I previously reported. Here's the truth from Trump on this. He says, I've been briefed on the deadly shooting at the ICE field office in Dallas, Texas. It has now been revealed the deranged shooter wrote anti-ICE on his shell casings. This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are just trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst criminals out of our country, but they are facing an unprecedented increase in threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. This violence is the result of the radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continued violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped. ICE officers and other brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. We have already declared Antifa a terrorist organization, and I will be signing an executive order this week to dismantle these domestic terrorism networks. I am calling all Democrats to stop this rhetoric against ICE and America's law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter. J.D. Vance, meanwhile, says, we know that this person was politically motivated, pointing both to the inscriptions and some evidence we have that's not yet public. On the off chance the shooting wasn't what it looked like, I reached out to people who knew the gunman, 29-year-old Joshua John. 3 who knew him since at least middle school agreed to speak to me on the condition that I not name them, corroborating their friendship with photos and other records. So this is, to some extent, a trust me bro story, so just throwing that out there, which I guess fair enough. Their accounts paint the picture of someone with a vaguely libertarian bent who despised both major parties and politicians generally, including Trump, but who didn't engage with politics beyond that. He preferred edgy humor, video games, and the message board 4chan, all of which he became increasingly steeped in as he withdrew from social life as well as their own friendship several years ago. They said, none of his former friends believed that the anti-ICE inscription could possibly be sincere. Feeling such a serious political statement was anathema to who John was. His humor was deeply ironic, often offensive and aggressive to the point of alienation. He was most certainly an edgelord, an irony guy, one Fred said. Edgelord is online speak for someone who likes to espouse edgy, nihilistic views. Asked about the inscription on the bullet, the friend said Josh was an edgelord who wanted someone to get blamed. I think he tried his best to write something goofy to rile people up. So that would make sense. Another friend showed me a Facebook post describing how John had flooded his friends' comment sections with rape jokes. Playful shock humor, the friend just said. I mean, this sounds like describing like my account or something. But I do find this interesting. Keep in mind, this guy's like 29 years old. So I feel like the pictures I've seen kind of almost made it look like a younger guy. So I'm like thinking like young, early. But this is an older guy. He's almost in his 30s. So find that interesting. Yeah, I also did want to comment on the idea of the inscriptions and how they have friends supposedly saying that wasn't how he was. He was kind of an irony guy. And so if anything, he may have been someone who's not politically, and this kind of leans into kind of the accelerationism type vibe, the idea of like they would just be saying this shit to fuck with you. I mean, I guess maybe it's a little bit different vibe. It's just like, over the top irony, not necessarily tied to some other thing, but same idea. Like I could totally see how someone would be like anti-ICE, to be like, and keep in mind, I don't know if we covered, I'm pretty sure the only victims were actually, people like detainees, I guess would be the term I'm looking for here. So people in there. So this whole like anti-ICE, like I'm against, ICE, and you're like, well, you killed the people that were being, screwed over by ICE. So it doesn't really make much sense. I mean, that could be an accident though. John's profile on the gaming platform Steam showed the vast amounts of time he spent playing video games, particularly shooters, more than 6,000 hours on Rust, 3,000 on Team Fortress 2, and 1,000 on Left 4 Dead 2. He even found time to play 3.5 hours in the past 2 weeks, the account shows. And then here's a picture of his, whatever time. Among the dozen or so usernames he used was one reading impeachment. And when I asked if this wasn't a clear reference to if this wasn't a clear reference to anti-Trump politics, his friends recoiled the idea that he would express opposition to Trump so seriously and straightforwardly. Instead, they saw it as part of his broader ironic persona, poking fun at anti-Trump resistance types. Here's more stuff of his. That said, one friend recalled that when Trump first came to power, John was not a fan, though he had contempt for mainstream politicians in general. His figures say he had more of a libertarian bent, with one recalling an interest in the libertarian figure Ron Paul. Oh, wow. Isn't that inconvenient? I'm in danger. Still, a friend who recounted John's dislike of Trump insisted that there was at least a kernel of seriousness to the username. If it was ironic, it was half irony, where you're half kidding, half serious, just in case, he said. He was never really into politics, especially not politicians, said another friend who had known John since age 8. He was into politics only in the 4chan sense, contrarian, provocative, boundary pushing for laughs, not conviction. 4chan, the anonymous message board where provocation and irony are the coin of the realm, was apparently one of John's favorite haunts. His abrasive humor is where his friends' opinions on him diverge the most, with some describing it as amusing, but others as grating, especially as his online persona bled into real life. I mostly stopped talking to him when he took his 4chan/irony stuff into daily interactions, one friend told me. He was becoming unbearable. Once he dropped out of college, he had no obligation to be social, and none of us reached out to his edgelord behavior. Which, I'm pretty sure, didn't that last guy drop out of college too? So that's interesting. I wasn't able to find anyone with insight into John's more recent views, something that his friends said was unsurprising, given his withdrawal from social life over the past few years. If you're having trouble finding people besides immediate family who knew him, that's part of the story, one friend said. Every mutual friend drifted away over that kind of edgelord behavior. A fledgling version of John's humor appears in the following YouTube video from when he was a high schooler, a tongue-in-cheek parody of tech advice videos. I guess we can... A second. Give me a minute. Sorry, I just realized the audio isn't working for you guys. Give me a second. One moment. Should be back now. All right, let's do that now. Now, this is the guy.
There's a solution.
Some self-help video they found, I guess.
Hello there, Facebook user. Are you tired of scrolling through your Facebook feed mindlessly, not knowing what the heck to do with your life? Well, there's a solution to that. You can unlike all of your crappy pages. All you have to do to unlike your crappy pages that you realize you don't like anymore is to go to your profile, select more, go down to likes, and simply hover over each page you want to unlike, and there you go. You will be able to unlike all of your pages in a matter of minutes, maybe hours, possibly, depending on how much you've used this function of Facebook. Thank you, and I hope you like your day.
Okay, that felt weird. This is from when he was in high school, I guess. A tongue-in-cheek parody of tech advice videos. Okay, all right, whatever. The following audio recording of John bombing at stand-up comedy was shared with me. It drew a comparison by one friend to the 2019 Joker film starring Joaquin Phoenix as an off-putting loner who also tried and failed at comedy. The film circulates in a scene in which the Joker gets his revenge on the entertainment world by gunning down the host of a popular late-night TV show, which this Ken almost nailed the kind of the vibe I'm getting already. But let's go ahead and play this. Here's his I guess him trying and failing at some sort of stand-up things. Let's go and play it.
Hey guys, my second time doing stand-up. Was at the Dallas Comedy Club last time. Alright, so I'm going to start out with talking about something pretty serious. My buddy was talking to me the other day about reality TV, and he didn't like it too much. He said reality TV should never be played on TV. And I was all taken aback, like, whoa, dude, come on. I have some extremely bad insecurity issues about myself. They constantly eat me up alive. And reality TV is a remedy for that. That's a perfect remedy. And it applies to me, so instead of going down that old money road, I just go towards MTV. Cheers up my day. It's great. You guys should all watch MTV. I like Kim Kardashian and Girl Code and Guy Code. These are great advice shows. I heard you guys, someone say something about Tinder, but I did some research on that, and apparently it's a matchmaking website, and for those who don't know, it's, if you don't know how to start a fire, just go to choose Tinder. There's this guy named, I just here's some of my original content, I made this out of my own brain. There's this guy named Derek, and he's an avid ghost hunter. His father recently passed away. He wanted to see if his father's ghost is still around. So he got all of his friends together, his ghost hunting friends and his ghost hunting equipment, and he turned them on, and he's like, Father, are you still here? If you're here, make a sound. And you hear nothing. And then he said he waits about 30 seconds, like having the door, swings flies open, and he starts laughing and says, "Oh, that's my late father for you." Has your girlfriend or wife or spouse ever said, "Honey, I'm falling apart," and you can't help but say, "I know, but I don't have any sewing equipment on hand. I just can't help you. It kind of seems like your problem." A guy walked into a really scary, spooky breakfast cafe in France, and he didn't expect much when he came in, but when he walked out, he said, "Man, that place really gave me the crates." Some guy insisted that I listen to Nicki Minaj's new stuff, and he knew that I only liked classical jazz, and so I had to say, man, pop music isn't really my jazz, and you know that. So I knew a guy in the war, and he got his hand cut off, unfortunately, and he bled to death. And I'm trying to have some reverence here, but I can't help but think his heart was pumping in vain. Thank you guys.
Okay. All right. That felt weird. Don't know what to make of that. The audio from his attempted stand-up routine where he bombed now resonates uncannily with Joker, the friend said. Ironically, John's contempt for Trump and the major political parties has bestowed them with one of the most intensely partisan news cycles in recent history or memory, in the sense the joke is on him and all of us too. Okay, that's the article. This feels very weird to me. I don't know. Something about this feels off. Here's the photo. And this is kind of what I was talking about too, where they're like, this is a 29-year-old man, and this is the photo they use. So like, I don't know. Maybe there aren't any modern ones, but this looks like a 15-year-old. The photo they use. So, and he's 29. So I don't know. This is weird. I'm interested to see what you guys got to think. This feels very. I mean, I guess I don't know. Sounds like one of us. It's like, what the fuck? But you're like, yeah, like I make crazy jokes and like, what if I lost in my intrusive thoughts or this or that? But like, I wouldn't literally be like, my intrusive thoughts said go jump on a fucking roof and shoot at Trump. The irony. Like, what? Jesus Christ. Tom33 in the chat says, if that's an engraving, you also filled it in with paint or something and sanded it off the outer surface because you don't get blue from brass. Yeah, it looked like blue to me. And so my thought was like, well, I don't know, with brass, maybe scraping it would maybe leave it like a blue, but it did look like shitty fucking just blue ballpoint pen is what it looked like. You can see everyone's pointing out, yeah, guys, literally me. It's weird stuff. Jose, where were you this time? Sounding eerily familiar here. Shut the fuck up, dude. Yeah, Gerald says another autist succumbs to Fed grooming on the internets. More loved basking, weaving forum. Yeah, did that nigga watch Tower Gang, says John Black. Yeah, I know these are like Tower Gang bits. You're like, that was actually what I was thinking. I was like, what the fuck? But we wouldn't actually do it. Daniel Boone says he died twice. Love a corny pun, says Comment Mama. Yeah, this is tries comedy one time, kills person, must be the Joker. This is Dra Kultokan. Yeah, it does seem like even the quotes he got here, like it just feels all too perfectly prepared. I don't know. It's weird. All right, let's get into the next story. Apparently, we have received the proper amount of votes, I guess, to force Trump to release it. Now, they haven't actually voted, as the community note points out here. So it's a vote to force a vote. So, but they just had, we talked about this the other day, that Adelita Grayava, or whatever, apparently she was one of the last holdouts to have the amount they needed. So they do have the amount they need right now. So they are getting ready to, I think, try to probably force a vote here soon. So, you know, be on the lookout for that like, hey, we're here now. I think it's just a matter of, I don't know the exact bureaucratic process here, but they just got to force the vote and we move on. I did think it was also particularly interesting that, and I do think it weirdly does tie into all this. But apparently there is now a membership for a pay-to-pay club to the White House. Now, I thought this was particularly interesting. Let's watch this. I'm interested in what you guys think.
Ultra wealthy who want access to the White House have a new club. It's called Executive Branch, and the new private members club will cost $500,000 just to join. And at that price, there is already a waiting list. The club is owned, as you mentioned, by Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, along with his business partners at 1789 Capital. That's Omid Malik and Chris Buzzkirk. The other owners include Alex and Zach Witkoff. Those are the sons of Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy and longtime friend of the president's. Some of the founding members include crypto investors David Sachs and the Winklevoss brothers. I'm told that the club will be located in Georgetown in a building that will open next month. Now, the launch party on Saturday night included a who's who from the Trump cabinet, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Attorney General Pam Bondi, SEC Chair Paul Atkins, Dr. Oz, and a lot of others. The $500,000 membership fee would make it the most expensive private membership club in the country after Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, of course, just increased its membership fee to $1 million, and even there is a long wait list. Now, to become a member of Executive Branch, you're going to need to be personally approved by the owners with a trusted referral. Sources telling me they want a, quote, safe space for people to have private conversations with members of the Trump administration.
Yeah, that's not weird at all, right? Not weird at all. Here's more of this.
The ultra wealthy who want access.
Oh, that's the same one. But they're just highlighting in on this. The one thing, we want people to feel comfortable having private conversations with White House staff. So I don't know, I found that particularly weird, especially when you pair it with stuff like this. We have little people or the big people getting the hookups, and then although this is kind of big people too. Here's a apparently I didn't really cover this on this show because whatever, you guys know YouTube sucks. I mean, frankly, it's like old news. You're like people talking about oh, YouTube sucks. I'm like, shut the fuck up, homo. I know. But everyone's been all worked up about that, oh my God, did you see they admitted everything? You're like, yeah, we already knew, and we're way past that, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong, fuck those guys, but it just sounds like, especially since the right jumping on it, and they're like, look what happened under the Biden administration. Yeah, well, your dude's probably fucking kids, so okay. My point being is it's very clearly it's this stupid, feels like a MAGA story where they're like, look at what Biden did. Oh, and you're like, okay, well, we're currently dealing with the current administration doing flagrantly insane things on a damn near daily basis. So forgive me if I don't give two flying fucks that over 4 years ago, Biden's administration said some shit to some people there, especially when you have the current right essentially trying to engage in the same behavior. So it's like, well, we're dealing with the here and now, and you're currently engaging in this behavior that you are all the same time looking back at and being like, look what they did. I'm like, yeah, you're basically kind of moving in that direction right now. So what's your point? But apparently, yeah, YouTube came out and admitted basically, yeah, we fucking did all this shit. I don't even know the specific details. I just don't care. But apparently they basically admitted everything, that, yeah, we removed people even when it wasn't really against the whatever the fuck, the terms of service. We're doing whatever the hell we want. And then I guess yesterday, Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones tried to essentially test it, vibe check the new YouTube, considering as they kind of announced these things, the impression being like, oh shit, they'll be cool now, and they still nuked them. So Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes got nuked off there. To be fair, do I really think these guys are fucking, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe Fuentes you could say, but obviously I have my suspicions as well. Of other stuff. Alex Jones is, I don't know. He the purpose he seems to serve, if I'm being cynical, is the guy that's oh my God, that's so crazy, and then he gets to be the one who backs off. He's the one who has that initial crazy, say with the 30-06 thing, and the next thing you know, he's like, well, okay, listen here, Patriots. Well, you think he's at a 7-degree incline on the roof, and so if you think about it, a 30-06 coming down at a 7-degree descent, I think maybe it just might take a fucking full-on 90-degree turn once it hits with the clavicle, because that totally makes fucking sense. He's that guy. He's the one who you're like, oh my God, Alex Jones. Oh, Alex Jones is running with it. He's fucking right. Oh, and the next thing you know, it's either bunk or he then buys it. He's either bunk or he buys it. That's what ends up happening. This is some bullshit that Alex Jones ran with, and you're the idiot for being like, oh my God. Or it's like, well, next thing you know, if it is legit, you're gonna find him being like, essentially being like, well, here's what. Well, I talked to some members of the administration, and I know we were really suspicious of the deep state a moment ago, but I talked to the deep state, and they said, here's a perfectly good reason for why we're doing this, and just trust me, bro. And so let's do it. That's the role that he fills. So, but at the same time, it is interesting they're still nuking him there. So, at this point, though, if anything, it actually would go to build their bona fides. But another thing to kind of pair with this story of kind of how information is being controlled, especially in light of all this Epstein stuff, I think it's particularly interesting. Here's something from Michael Tracy shared, something from the Washington Post. He shared an excerpt from an article from Scott Nover over there. And this is a claim of things going on in the press over there. And so I'll read just this right here. It says, the Trump administration unveiled a new crackdown Friday on journalists at the Pentagon, saying, now this is the Pentagon obviously, but the press to the president, whatever, similar type thing, saying it will require them to pledge they won't gather any information, even unclassified, that hasn't been expressly authorized for release, and will revoke the press credentials of those who do not obey. Under the policy, the Pentagon may revoke press passes for anyone it deems a security threat. Possessing confidential or unauthorized information under the new rules would be grounds for a journalist's press to be revoked. DOW, the Department of War, remains committed to transparency to promote accountability and public trust, the document says, using an acronym for the newly rebranded Department of War. However, DOW information must be approved for public release by an appropriate authorizing official before it is released, even if it is unclassified. Which anyone knows anything about journalism knows that's bullshit. You're a journalist. You should be releasing such type stuff. And then also, once again, another thing in this vein of Epstein stuff, right at this time, I find it extremely suspect. Right when we get all these fucking, the votes are supposedly in now. Now we just actually have to have the vote. And I honestly, I'm going to be real, I'm a little side-eyed that we see Thomas Massey rolling with this too. But here is from James O'Keefe. Thomas Massey shared it here, but James O'Keefe shared this leaked thing from some supposed Jeffrey Epstein thing. We'll watch some of it. One of his, I got some dude to say he was going to give him a glizzy, and he told us everything about Epstein. I don't know why he became Alex Jones there. But I find it interesting that then Thomas Massey quote tweets it saying, senior DOJ investigator who says he interviewed victims for the government's Epstein case spills the beans on a hidden camera. So let's see the sort of beans he spilled. I mean, we could just read the caption here, and I think you'll kind of get what I'm driving at, and then we'll watch a bit of the video. So senior DOJ Epstein investigator reveals Epstein was CIA, confirms, in quotes, rapes occurred while Bill Clinton was on the plane, end quote. Says of President Trump, quote, he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there. Sure. And then a quote from him, I've interviewed all the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and the rapes occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. End quote. Quote, DOJ, didn't want to go after him, Epstein, because he's an asset for the U.S. and Israel. End quote. It's not a quote. It's not talked about it yet, but it's soon to come out that Epstein, was a CIA informant. So, I mean, obviously I think some of this is true, but all the leaked information where the supposed whistleblower goes, yeah, and Trump is such a handsome man. His hands are humongous. His penis is 3 feet long. Fucking Biden just exists in an eternal sleep. He's the worst president ever. I mean, these seem like weird things for a whistleblower to say, but who am I to question things? So let's go ahead and play this.
It's not talked about yet, but it'll soon come out that he was a CIA informant.
He was a CIA informant.
He wasn't a CIA. I think he's protecting a lot of other people. He's not protecting himself because there's nothing there. But he's protecting a lot of people. Because Trump's now saying it's a hoax of the case is like a hoax or something. I mean, come on, it's not a hoax. He's been on the plane, many times. Mm-hmm. It's just he was never on the plane with the kids. I've seen the itineraries and I've interviewed all of the victims. There's never been an instance where Trump was on a plane with these kids and a rape occurred. But that can't be said for Clinton, and it can't be said for others. While the Clintons were on the plane, while Bill Clinton was on the plane, there were rapes that occurred.
Overheard at Phoenix Airport on September 8th, 2025, a senior Justice Department investigator who personally worked on the Epstein case tells all. Glenn Prager, who has reviewed Epstein itineraries and has interviewed Epstein's victims, drops a bombshell. He says that the DOJ did not want to go after Epstein because he's a CIA asset, that the evidence from his investigation confirms that Bill Clinton was present for alleged rapes on the Lolita Express, and that President Trump was not present for the rapes that Glenn Prager investigated, but that he is protecting a lot of other people that were.
How about this whole Epstein thing that's like going down?
So I worked on that case. I used to interview all the victims. And my picture was 20 to 30 victims in Palm Beach that I was interviewing and dealing with and stuff like that. And then we would go ready to go to trial and they would flip. Epstein would just pay them off. And they were just like these little kids. They pay off their family. They're all broke kids and poor families and all. So you pay them off like anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000. Nothing. in that guy's world.
Prager there describes how the victims that he interviewed were paid off by Epstein right before going to trial. Prager has worked as an investigator inside the Department of Justice for over 20 years. According to Prager's LinkedIn About page, it says that during the tenure at DOJ, Prager served as an inspector overseeing sensitive investigations involving major DOJ components, including the FBI, DEA, Bureau of Prisons, U.S. Marshal Service, ATF, and the U.S. Attorney's offices. This seems to corroborate what Prager told us. He was tasked with interviewing Epstein's rape victims and investigating flight logs. On his backpack in the airport, we spotted an embroidered FBI patch, which caught the attention of our citizen journalist.
I'll tell you this, because no, it's not talked about yet, but it'll soon come out that he was a CIA informant.
He was a CIA informant.
He was a CIA.
All right, you guys can check the rest of this out on your own. I don't really feel the need to drag you through all of this, but I don't know. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Whatever. Take that for whatever you want to take that for. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Let's be real. I kind of anticipated at some point there's going to come there's inevitable. The stuff is going to come out. Now we got to control it. I'm the good guy. Oh, that's why. So I don't know. Just get prepared. I'd be prepared for that to come out here soon. That kind of like the Mike Johnson flighted out as some sort of informant. I wouldn't be surprised if we go back over that again. Just so gay. All right, let's see where. Let's switch tones a little bit. Although this is kind of the same topic of Fed theater, I think. But let's see where Nick Fuentes is at now. I think he's. I don't know. It seems to be between some people out there received some harsh feedbacks from their audience, and now we're seeing maybe corrections. Although I don't know. Maybe there was also a delay with some of these people who are not as embroiled in the parapolitical world, where they're on delay and receiving information. They're just receiving information later. Because here's Nick Fuentes talking about the magic bullet stuff. Although it's like, I think the magic bullet shit came out days ago, and he was like still then saying some other shit. So once again, maybe he just found out after the fact. Yet he's somehow, despite the fact this information came out somehow before that, he was still completely fine with like flagrantly just being like, oh, you guys are ridiculous for having other theories. It's clearly, when are you guys going to accept it's just some fucking crazy lefty? Like, okay, whatever. Maybe those were just like out of context clips or whatever, and maybe they weren't a proper representation of where he stood. But I mean, it is a little bit confusing. But here he is now. Let's see what he has to say. And give me a second. Of course, the audio is not working because why would StreamYard ever work for me? That'd make no sense. Give me a minute. Let me bring that back up. Here you go. All right, we're back.
We get Andrew Colvett, who comes out last week, and he says, based on evidence apparently that he received from the attending physician, from the surgeon, he says that he was authorized to say, and it was shared with him, that the bullet miraculously stopped because Charlie Kirk's bone density was so healthy and so strong that that it stopped the bullet in its tracks and prevented other people from dying. And, that's where you got to pump the brakes and say, wait a second. Is that really the word choice we want to go with? Magic
that's
bullet.
When I pumped the brakes Saturdays when I went, okay, now we've got, and then TVUSA is calling me their spokesperson saying, well, let me give you the full story. But yeah, this Man of Steel thing, that's when I was like, whoa.
Right, because initially I'm willing to believe, and I think it's true, that there are left-wing nut jobs that want to kill people like Charlie Kirk. It happens. There was a shooter at a Catholic church in Minneapolis a few weeks ago, another left-wing person.
A guy came to kill you this year and got killed by police an hour later.
Exactly. And so this is a problem. Luigi Mangione, this is something going on in the country. I'm willing to believe if there's evidence that that's the explanation. But when they come in and say Man of Steel, miracle, magic bullet, magic skeleton, that's where I got to say, hang on a second. Yeah, I know that doesn't make sense. So now I'm asking even more questions, actually. That's an answer that raises more questions that actually it answers. And the thing about this Andrew Colvett guy, and I don't know him personally, I've never met him, but Candace actually had a good point about this. A lot of people don't know. This is a PR guy. This is a public relations guy. That's what he does for Turning Point USA. That's actually what he did for a company called the Kairos Company. That's where he worked from 2014 to 2019 with Marissa Straight of Prager University. with one of these big reverends that's a Christian Zionist. That was a public relations firm. He represents himself as a fixer. He is a Christian Zionist, pro-Israel fixer. And so if it's that guy, because I'll be super honest with you about how my thinking has been changing over time on this. When he first said that, my first thought was, why would Charlie Kirk's producer and best friend, why would he lie? What would be in it for someone like him to lie or cover it up? If this Man of Steel, Superman thing, if that's a cover up, why would someone so close to Kirk and friendly and working with him, why would he lie about it? But then you dig into his background and you find that this guy is a fixer. He's a PR guy for the Christian Zionists. He was actually there over Charlie Kirk's shoulder at the focus group after the SAS conference where Tucker spoke and Dave Smith debated Josh Hammer. It was Colvett, the producer, who was hanging behind Kirk and saying, I think we could all agree that we talk about Israel a whole lot less. I think we could all agree that we don't want to talk about that anymore. And so it's things like that that actually just have to be answered. And I will say I'm glad Kash Patel, of course, came out a few days after that. And he listed all of these discrepancies. He talked about theories of different shooters and the bullet caliber and all these different things.
Which shows
and
they
said,
know there's massive pressure.
All right, let's get in another. So that's particularly interesting, seeming like he's shifting, which I don't know, I guess is predictable. I mean, when you see sort of your audience freaking out, I don't know. I mean, once again, you never know what the reasoning is for these people, and obviously a lot of people have jumped to, oh, you got the call. I've said perhaps maybe these people get the hint. There's also the natural incentives in place of a vacuum being created in the market. I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, there also is just that this isn't. I mean, these guys between the Fuenteses, the Dave Smiths, I was gonna say, I know Margaret's kind of grouped in these. They're although I wouldn't even say like him, maybe. Although I don't know, he's like more of like a historian, so he's gonna reevaluate these things after the fact. But like, point being is they're coming at it from your standard. They're commentators. If they do engage in like in history, it's like maybe like 5 plus 10 years or so. It's more of like they hang out in the reputable. They swim in now on the ground, like digging into things. These are going to be the handful of ragtag good journalists out there. Unfortunately, some of the InfoWars type stuff, which they get like, let's be real, too dubious with things. Whereas I'd say some of these people, because this isn't, they are not the on the ground, like, hey, what about this? What about that? They are the big picture commentators. It makes sense they would be, frankly, fucking normie pilled when it comes to this shit. So, and they're not paying attention to the way that we are or approaching these problems in the same way that we do. So, I mean, that's my, I guess, out for these people of like, why the fuck do you guys come off so bizarre right now? But a little bit to their point, though, kind of like maybe people get carried away. I did a little bit myself. Well, I wouldn't say I got carried away. I did quote tweet this little video the other day, and I want to get you guys' thoughts. And I'm mostly just sharing this out of like I just felt like I almost should, because after I quote tweeted and I was like, whoa, yo, what the fuck? Just kind of one of those. I didn't make any claims, anything. Said this is real, this is whatever. But here's a video, and I actually, before you watch it. I haven't rewatched. I've watched it fully with this in mind. Here's a video where they're showing you all these different people and how they act in it, and the immediate aftermath, and kind of the idea being like, why would they act this way? Well, now, if you take into account, I think I've heard a lot of people say keys. So this video you're about to watch, sorry for the audio people, this will make no sense for you. You'll have to fast forward. But I just wanted to show this to you guys. For one, I shared it, so so I almost feel some level of obligation to be like, I think this might be the explanation. So I think perhaps keys, grabbing keys and then going to run to get the car started and get things prepared could be be a good explanation here. So I just wanted to throw that out there and also kind of go through it together. Here is this video that we'll go through from like right after. Now himself is blurred out, so you can't see any of the awful stuff, so that's good. So it says, pay attention to this guy. You see a guy coming in. I'm going to turn this volume down a little bit. It's way too loud. So you see this guy coming in. He jumps in, all cool guy, over the table. Boom. He comes over. Looks like he's reaching his pockets or something, kind of shuffling around, trying to get around. It looks like people are looking at probably Kirk on the floor. He comes down. He's like reaching around his pockets. Looks like this guy right here, in this weird shirt, which I am almost certain, which this is the one where I'm still like, I don't know what's going on here. This is the guy that now I don't know what he's doing, and if anything, the only reason I'm really looking at him suspicion is because he was already looked at with suspicion before. He is the guy. I know this shirt, it's kind of hard to tell, but I've seen it in other angles and other pictures. So I'm like 99.9% certain this is the exact same guy that everyone has already analyzed, where he was kind of standing by the fence and looked like he was doing something like this, and like he like right in the moment when like he did something with his hand. And I know a lot of people jump to like some sort of exotic weapon, like a handgun or something. Well, I've seen a lot of you guys put in the chat, and I've mentioned it too, the theory that it could have been like an explosive charge of some sort somewhere, particularly like the lapel thing here that like blew up into there. I'm pretty damn partial to that. I don't know, unless there's some like, I've seen a few breakdowns, and like the reason why I hesitate to say 100% that's it is just because I'm a tech retard, so it's like we're in this like post-reality world that I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know. There could be so many different things that have been done to alter these videos, especially since a lot of these are like analyzing frame by frame. I feel like there's probably some shenanigans that can be done, but my point being is I know that one does look pretty legit. There's been a lot of different breakdowns and stuff. But anyways, to that, I know a lot of people went to like some sort of exotic handgun, like he had some sort of like thing that like poked out between his fingers, and he like pushes it and it shoots out. Okay, that always seemed a little ridiculous to me, particularly like I was open to the idea, but nothing about anything he did seemed 100%. I mean, yeah, he did move weird, and he did kind of do some sort of physical action the very moment that seemed that Kirk was shot, and he also reacted kind of almost as like and it wasn't this. His reaction was more of like a anticipatory action. It seemed like, at least to me, it didn't seem like this like reacting to the shot. It more seemed like a reacting to pushing. Kind of almost as if you were literally shooting somebody, like say it was your first, second, third, whatever time. You're kind of like, and you're almost kind of like you're hesitant because I mean you're killing someone. Obviously, I'm not saying he did that, but he is the guy who is now in this gaggle of people trying to save him. So I guess I think I'd heard somewhere something about him perhaps being one of the security members. So there you go. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that one. A lot of people theorize that perhaps he was pushing the button that set off the charge or something. I don't know. I'm open to that. But anyways, so that one guy, you see him, he's walking off to the back, and he kind of did some sort of look like a handoff or something to that guy. Now, if you say keys, perhaps. Okay, but we have one exchange here. It's going to play. He comes down. So it says, did you see it? Let's watch again. So I think this one is easily explainable by keys. So he bends, he's reaching around his pockets. Says, just grab something. They say grab something, probably the lavalier, which is whatever, one of the things. Puts it in his pocket. Whereas, I don't know, he could just be reaching around for his keys. Like, oh shit, which pocket did I put him in? Kind of thing. Like, he knows. Because I would assume, too, another thing, too, is like one of the things that threw me off here is how rehearsed all of this seemed. Because as you watch this video, you'll see how people act was like almost like they. But then I thought about it, I was like, this is a security team. This is literally, I wouldn't be surprised if they do run these drills. So, people see this and they're like, oh, this looks rehearsed. I'm like, yeah, it probably was. But like, it's not negative like you think it was. So anyways, let's keep going. So you see him kind of come up, dab up, sort of do some sort of something. He says, watch closely. You see him reach over. He kind of touches him. It says, guy in brown appears to give him the remote detonator. He then runs away with it. So they're assuming something's in this one guy's hand, passes it off. I don't think so. Or maybe. I mean, I guess it could be the case. So there is some sort of handoff. I mean, people are assuming he's giving him something. I think it's probably the other way around if we're trying to give this a proper explanation. The guy in the weird shirt there is probably handing him the keys, like, hey, go start the car, get out of here. And then he leaves off to the back. So, boom. He comes down. He jumped the table, grabbed something, went to the other guy, grabbed something else, and then ran out in a hurry. I think it's keys. And then but now, what does complicate this too is that now this is where I thought there were other people who did something weird, grabbed something. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe multiple vehicles need to be started. Although, I don't know. You would think that the priority would be to tend to Kirk. I don't know. Maybe there's some security people who have done VIP events and can understand, like, I'm sure people run drills. Maybe this makes sense, but this is where it gets like, maybe I struggle to be like, maybe it's not just keys, because now we're going to see two other people do something similar. So let's go and watch this. These people, they just circled on the sides. They react, they turn around. Well, one of them was one we already analyzed. So he's the one who goes over, dabs up the other guy, does some sort of weird, looks like a drug handoff, although it could have just been keys. So then you see the other guy, you can even see him right here. He crawled down under. Now he's getting up, too. He literally crawled down on the ground, which that makes it a little bit weird. He's kind of on his tummy, like kind of crawling towards Kirk. It looks like he grabbed something. And he gets up and runs, too. Just runs. So, yeah, watch him again. We're focusing on him. So he's more fishy now than the other guy, in my opinion, because the other one makes more sense. Because looks like he grabbed something and ran. So I don't know. I'm interested in your thoughts. I more just want to share it because I shared it kind of unthinkingly, and then like, I don't know. Not that I necessarily feel like I have any obligation, but I feel like some people might take that and like, I don't know. Actually, after I heard the keys thing, I'm like, at least for the very first guy, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he hopped on the ground. Maybe they knew there was another car blocking the first car or whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. But at least half of this is perfectly explainable, I think. Yeah, we'll check in and see what you guys got to say. Yep. In a minute, I think. Here's something from Hustle Bitch. Is a Twitter account. It says, why haven't you heard about this man? It says September 11th, the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the man dressed in scrubs and doctor's lab coat was arrested for breaking into the crime scene at UVU and filming evidence. He didn't run up to the Losey in snow. Instead, he went directly to the Woodbury. Sound familiar? The very building where I caught someone on video on the roof 17 minutes before Charlie was shot and killed. The guy's name, Russell Kennington, 38, arrested for criminal trespass and obstruction of justice, felony level. He reportedly crossed inside 2 sets of yellow crime scene tape, claiming he was reminiscing and filming the scene and following the shadows. So why was a man disguised as a doctor sneaking to the crime scene just hours after the shooting, and why is no one talking about it? I don't know if they said hours, but it's the next day, but still it's fishy. Here is them walking him out. They're holding a gun, too, which is what's weird. Like, you see a gun, at least I think that's a gun, right? It looks like he has, like, almost some sort of, I can't really make out what kind of it is, like a smaller, maybe collapsible or something, like collapsible stock. That looks like he has a gun in his hand. It's hard to make out. So that's weird. Like the one cop who was escorting him. Let's see if we can make that out again. Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess he could be just carrying his gun, but, like, I don't know, why is security campus running around with fucking rifles? That seems bizarre. You know what I mean? You'd think they just have a sidearm. Maybe keep like I mean, I guess maybe to be fair, maybe when he arrested the guy, because they might keep him in their car or something. I don't know. But this is still odd. Huh. Weird stuff. Weird times. Here's something that I guess a little bit of a plug for an episode I did last night. Also, I kind of wanted to seed this out. I know we've talked about with the Kirk thing, the Ackman side of things. I think they were using a government reward that was offered. I think wasn't the government reward like $100,000 or something that was to like that led to the arrest of whoever did it or whatever. And then there was $1 million one from Ackman. So point being is it's kind of like, you know, hey, how do these, everyone goes, oh, it's crazy that X, Y, and Z, because that would require this person, that person to be in on it, and that person to do this, and then they would have to do that, and it would be such a grand conspiracy. Well, I don't know, between murder, blackmail, and straight up money, I think you can get a lot of things done. So I just thought this was particularly interesting. Like I said, kind of a plug. I had Ken on the show last night. So this is paywall. They'll probably come out next week. I'll probably release it a little bit earlier than normal since it's a little bit timely. But I had him on to cover some of the Ryan Ralph stuff, and we kind of dug into the whole story, kind of from the start to finish. And one of the interesting little factoids in this case is that $162,000 was deposited into the daughter of Ryan Ralph in March 2024. I forget when he did the whatever, but obviously, yeah. When was the I forget when the actual attack was. When did Ryan Ralph? whatever. That doesn't matter. Point being is just that his sister, I mean, because it does matter, but my point is the sister, or not sister, his daughter, in roughly the same period of time, had almost $200,000 drop into her account. Funny enough, there also was in the course too of when he got caught, there was like a letter that was found where he basically put out like, oh, if you're reading this, like I'm dead or caught, or forget the specifics of it. And he was kind of like, you know, if you finish what I put out, there's $150,000 for you or whatever. Well, he may not have been lying. I know that sounded ridiculous when we first covered that little piece of information when it came out way back when, but he may not have been full of shit since his daughter then recently that much money dropped into her account. She also was oddly, I do find it weird that she very much vouched for him, and then even as he got out, she very much acted upset. And I find it very odd considering that the ex-wife and the mother say otherwise. Let's go play this.
Donald Trump is speaking out for the first time in an interview you will see only on WPBF 25 News. Tonight, she is sharing how it feels to watch her father in court and what she hopes happens now. Thanks for joining me. Just spoke with Sarah Ruth, who says she wants the world to know the truth about her father.
Despite the fact that he is on trial for allegedly attempting to shoot and kill Donald Trump last year, Sarah Ruth tells me that her father, Ryan Ruth, is a kind and gentle man who has never hurt anyone and who believes in the simple things in life.
I just want the world to know who my dad is for who he is and not for what the media has painted him out to be.
Keep in mind, this broad had $160,000 at her account. So
says her father, Ryan Ruth, is a loving father who spends his life helping others and doing good for the community.
I mean, like, he's never wronged anybody. He's always been devoted to helping other people, and he doesn't understand why there's not more support out there.
Well, I mean, he is on trial for allegedly attempting to assassinate a presidential candidate, which most people would say is not a good, kind, or gentle thing. About her dad's defense strategy, or the state's case that Ruth allegedly planned to kill Donald Trump and set in a sniper's nest with a semi-automatic rifle before being spotted by a Secret Service agent. She does say she supports him 100%. She's been in court every day and calls him every night in jail, where he prepares for another day of representing himself, which Sarah says is not going well. She calls it bullying.
They shut down every time he tries to say anything. And maybe he's not saying it right, but he's trying to say he's trying to get his point across, but he can't get that far. It's really frustrating for us to watch.
Sarah's brother, Orrin Ruth, is slated to testify in his father's behalf. Sarah says she's just trying to be there for her dad.
What do you hope to come out of this trial? You can look right into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I hope my dad comes home. But we'll see.
The prosecution said today they plan to rest their case by Thursday of next week, and then it will be Ryan Ruth's turn to lay out his own defense.
She said that Ryan abused her son Orrin, and we've covered this in the show, and we covered it last night in the Paywalled episode. That Orrin is currently serving, what was it, 7 years, I think, for child porn. So yeah, which he got busted for shortly after this. Although for the conspiratorial minded, he was dealing with they was under investigation before all this started. So it's not like something that popped up right after. But either way, that was a leverage point. So this is a guy with a son who was during all of this getting ready to go to trial for child porn, and then then he has a daughter that received $160,000 into her account, and now somehow is like saying what a great dad he is. Just finds it a little weird, a little odd, and then you have one son who has got busted with child porn. So I don't know, kind of the idea of like, where do apples come from? Well, they come from apple trees. So I mean, I don't know. Makes you wonder what's going on there. All right, getting into completely crazy territory. I've had a bunch of you guys tag me in this. I guess Donut did some sort of thread on this as well. But one of the followers, No Mud, No Lotus, I'll give you a follow back because I am, if you are a regular contributor to the show, I will generally tend to follow you back. I'm pretty liberal with that. If you want that. But anyways, so No Mud, No Lotus tagged me in some threads about some predictive programming type stuff. You're not the first one, though. One of many. We'll start from the top. Lord Hydraulic saying, rewatching De Palma's Snake Eyes. The guy who gets assassinated is called Charles Kirkland. And so here's a picture of it. It says, this is Cage Snake Eyes. This is Nicolas Cage is in this movie. So it's a Snake Eyes. Charles Kirkland is the name of the character. I guess he plays, I think. I have not watched this movie, but I got everyone tagging me in it, saying this is some predictive programming type stuff. I don't have the tab up. Here we go. Here's a tab. The No Lotus shared here. It says, holy fuck. Highlighted in here. So this is, I'm guessing, one of the main characters. He reveals everything he has learned to Kevin, who confesses that the trip to Norfolk was to test the Air Guard missile defense system, which Powell's company was backing. He deduces the sniper, a known Palestinian terrorist named Tariq Ben Rabat, assassinated Kirkland over the Pentagon's large-scale defense cooperation with and weapon systems transfers to Israel. I think he actually got shot in the neck, too, is what everyone's pointed out as well. Yup, here you go, tagging me this as well. The scene in Snake Eyes where Charles Kirkland was shot in the neck was filmed at the Trump Taj Mahal and Casino in Atlantic City. So a lot of people are finding these commonalities in here. Here's an excerpt from it where it's filming. It says the majority of Snake Eyes was filmed on studio sets in the Montreal Forum in Montreal, Canada. The production spent 2 weeks on location in Atlantic City, New Jersey, filming the Trump Taj Mahal Hotel and Casino. Now the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. Here is the scene, actually, where he gets shot in the neck. Let's make sure you got audio here. No, of course you don't, because why would StreamYard do that? Give me a minute. I hate you, StreamYard. I hate you so much. All right, let's see. Do we got it up now? Let's try. I think we got it up now. Let's try this. This is the actual scene itself. So let's play it.
Hello. What? Who are you? Where? My lucky number. What?
Okay, so there's a scene. He's right there, and then the character Charles Kirkland gets shot right in the neck, right behind him. Okay, that's something. All right, well, that's the end of that, I guess, at least from the perspective of No Mud, No Lotus. I don't know if you guys really like that. I know some people threw out the idea of getting Donut on the show. Good. Hey, for next week for Already Dead, well, you guys should tag him. I don't know. Maybe I could stop being lazy myself and hit him up and see if he wants to come on. But anyways, if you guys are interested in more of that, let me know. I don't know. I didn't check out his thread on it if he went more in depth. But yeah, apparently that's a thing. And then to kind of add to this, is anything real? We go a little bit into the Kirk stuff, the Erica Kirk stuff, not as much. Maybe we'll come back to this another time, maybe get into some of the possible Epstein connections. I don't think we'll get there. But in the vein of, is anything real? I thought this was interesting. Just a reminder. This is from Ben Wehrman. He says, did you know before any of this, Erica Kirk was an actress on TV? Here's a clip of her on Bravo's reality show, Summer House. Now, obviously, I don't know what to make of any of this, but this is what it is. This is her. This is on the Summer House, the reality show of Bravo, back when she was just some generic girl on reality shows.
Jordan's probably a virgin, so I'm setting Jordan up with my friend Erica. She's beautiful, and she happens to be religious. Jordan, if you don't think this is the next level, God help you. This is ridiculous. Okay, that's good. Beautiful blonde hair, her smile, her radiance. I can tell that she's got not only outward beauty, but inward beauty, and that's what I'm looking for in a woman. So, how do you two ladies know each other? We were in Miss USA together. Oh, cool. So she was Arizona and I was Miss North Carolina. Congrats.
Sorry, I know it's probably really quiet. If you guys can't hear it too well, let me know. We can move on.
You and I matched on Bumble like a year ago. Yeah, I never went anywhere. So I said, hey, and Jordan goes, hey, Sydney, glad we met. It was me too. I said, me too, smiley face. Did you do anything fun last night?
Goes. It's delivered. You're an asshole.
I think I was going through a phase of my life where I was like, want to meet somebody in real life. I want to meet somebody with the same beliefs. I'm like a really big Christian. I'm like,
So you wouldn't meet him at church or anything?
it's tough because like I watch it online.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that's like, hey, I'm gonna go to church on Sunday.
I don't think you get the church as it's tough to be a believer in the city.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, the vibe I get from whatever the hell this is, at least she's trying to be religious. I don't know. I've never watched the show, so I get the perspective from this sort of stuff. It's smut, so I don't know. Whatever. Maybe it's just rich kid. These sound like they're talking about values and stuff, and they don't really seem like they're. So whatever. I don't know. I don't know what this is. This seems weird though, from the acting thing. Obviously, I think we've mentioned the show too. She was a pageant girl, but I don't think she took up pageantry until she was an adult, and she did what Miss Arizona. Which was Trump's competition. I believe there's rumors that perhaps Trump introduced them. Obviously, they met in Israel, so a lot of people have lots of thoughts. People have also pointed out how her speech came off a little bit weird. The one that was 48 hours after her husband's death. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I did. Actually, I'm not going to watch this all. You guys can go watch this on your own. But a lot of people did find this odd. The manner in which this dropped. It did feel odd to me as well. There's also, this person points out how there's a lot of people that were widows and stuff saying this is weird. I don't know. I struggled to. And then also there's this video here of the body that a lot of people point out was oddly plastic, which feels gross to even comment on, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I understand why people... I mean, the shit that we've been fed. I mean, also we are a little bit in crazy territory. And this was also this felt like it was 72 hours within his death or something. So the idea of that they were even able to somehow have had an autopsy and done all the appropriate things is just frankly bizarre. But yeah, we got this weird video of her rubbing it. There was also people who pointed out even here the camera you can see. Well, you couldn't really make it out because they put the thing in the way. But those rings are very clearly Masonic rings. She's also wearing so the schizos have pointed out she's wearing Knights of Malta stuff in some things. So she's definitely well connected, that's for sure. And I think that makes a lot of people draw some connections. But yeah, I don't know. I don't recall. I haven't been to a funeral since I was a little kid, so I really don't recall what bodies look like after they've received the treatment. So I can't really. A lot of people have said it's weird, but I don't know. But it definitely was odd. But I mean, once again, how does someone really grieve? I don't know. And we'll probably get into later times some of the other weird stuff. Actually, wait, I didn't realize there was a thread. Here goes secondhand info, but a friend did a facial recognition comparison using pics from Erica's IG account and pics from her Address the Nation. There was no match. I mean, okay. I also don't trust some of these stuff when it comes to AI stuff like that. Apparently she visited the Pentagon in 2012, was involved in the military, and was in Trump's Miss USA pageant. She saw him in Israel, knew he was famous, then arranged a meeting in New York City where they basically decided to get married. If you saw an influencer family staging every moment of their life, typically you'd be revolted. Here's Charlie telling a story of how they met, which isn't fully true, and he just yanks his daughter into place to pretend she's looking at him. He keeps checking the camera. Yeah, it's really weird.
So I've been able to travel to the Pentagon. I've been able to meet General Salazar, who's actually out here in Arizona. And I've also been able to donate a Johnny's Locker to the Sojourner Center, which you're looking at right now.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of things that have been going on, from working in the military to traveling to just being able to get out. And so I've been able to...
All right, and here's,
let me see. Storytelling. So we're here at Bill's Burgers in New York City. And right near this...
Yeah, that one feels weird. I don't know. I'm not going to watch the kid one. That feels weird. So, I don't know. I mean, I do find it weird, though. I probably should have paired I have a Benny Johnson story ready to go at some point. I should have paired that here, because when it comes to staging families and stuff, I don't know. Benny's weird about that. There was some weird stuff that came out recently about him liking the old wiener, which we've all thought for a while now. I don't know. Yeah. Or here's another one that a lot of you guys have shared. We'll end the show on this one maybe. I don't know. Let's look at this one. Let's watch this video real quick.
In Miss USA, a pageant owned by ... 2012 wins Miss Arizona competes in Miss USA, a pageant owned by ... Trump. Okay, want to know something really weird? So she had said in a podcast that she had never competed in pageants and had never done any modeling before. Until one day she receives an invitation in the mail to become a model and start doing pageants. And the pageants that she started doing were Miss USA pageants owned by Trump. So she modeled for Trump. She was one of Trump's pageant girls. But did you know that she was also a casting director at the same time that she was doing all of this stuff for Trump? Now, she doesn't specify on her website if she worked as a casting director for Trump, but around the time that she was claiming to be a casting director, she also owned a ministry that was working with the U.S. military in Romania. The area in Romania where she was operating this ministry had a bunch of locals accusing these evangelical ministries of kidnapping children and trafficking them out of the country. These children were being found in the UK, in Israel, and were also being sent to undisclosed private islands. Locals demanded authorities look into it, but they never did. Now, Charlie Kirk really wanted the Epstein files released, but did his wife? Prior to marrying Charlie Kirk, she was a multi-millionaire on her own, and since his passing, she's also amassed all of his wealth, plus an additional at least $5 million in donations. She's currently considered the most powerful woman in the United States, with mega fans begging her to run as vice president in 2028. Let's talk about their first date, because it was actually a job interview. Back in 2018, 2 years after Donald Trump had started working with Charlie Kirk had hosted a Turning Point USA opening event for one of the offices that they had opened. And Erica and Charlie Kirk were introduced to each other. Charlie Kirk instantly thought that she was beautiful, but thought that she was really smart. And allegedly, one of their mutuals had suggested that Charlie Kirk hire Erica. I'm assuming it was Donald Trump or someone on his team, because Donald Trump had signed on to work with Charlie Kirk, and Erica was already one of Donald Trump's employees. So it would make the most sense for Donald Trump and his team to encourage Charlie Kirk to hire Donald Trump's employees. Anyways, Charlie Kirk DM'd Erica, invited her for a job interview. The job interview ended up turning into a date, and Erica allegedly had said, "You're not going to be my boss. You're going
to be my husband." That's how that finished. Here's another video. I guess a lot of people have pointed out some of the odd connections of family, which I know. I guess I'm not too surprised, considering as I just assume her family connections here. Although particularly government. I guess her mom has some sort of government connections. Let's go and play this.
Can I ask a question? It's maybe off topic. How did your mom choose Phoenix?
So she chose to move to Phoenix from Ohio because there was more of an opportunity for a female business owner out here, especially from the standpoint of she was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And so she had other business partners that were out here that were already in that industry, even one that was a mentor of hers. So it was really convenient to be able to come all together in one place to really have that. But my father ended up moving out here as well because my grandparents had a home out in Sun City. And so it took a little bit to get everyone out here. It took several years, but by that time, everyone was out here. So we had a little bit more family than just us.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, so there's that. I don't know. That's whatever. I mean, I guess her mom worked with Homeland Security, DOD. I mean, I don't know. That could mean a lot of things. I mean, this does seem a little bit grasping at straws. I don't know, this one right here, I mean, whatever. They're talking about more about the kids. I mean, that feels weird. They're talking about like no one's seen their kids in real life. I know that just seems like a influencer being prudent. I know I kind of don't even really want to cover that. That's weird. Here's another video. Let's see what this one of our other fellow schizoids have to say.
This is probably going to lose a lot of you, so please just listen to me, okay? I am a card-carrying conservative, but something is up with the wife, okay? Something is up with the fact that she had never done a pageant before and just so happened to get a modeling offer in the mail, and then she just so happened to win Miss Arizona USA 2012. There's something up with the fact that she was 17 and started a nonprofit where she worked alongside the United States military in Romania, doing work with orphanages at the same period that Romania was having one of its largest trafficking crises in its history. There's also something up with the fact that she is a licensed real estate agent in the state of New York, and she worked for the same real estate group that did business with Jeffrey Epstein. And she was very, very successful on her own before the mutual friend set her up for her interview with Charlie for Turning Point. And sources are saying that that friend was President Trump. You guys, she was already successful. She had this vision, and now there are rumors that allegedly Netanyahu was going to free up $150 million of American Jewish money to Turning Point USA, and Charlie declined it. And you guys, just since Charlie's death, Turning Point USA has gotten over 18,000 chapter requests across the United States. I did not hear one mention of Israel or Netanyahu or the backlash that Charlie had been facing in Erica's speech. And today, when the Charlie Kirk show was live, none of his friends or co-workers said one thing about it while they were all talking about the alleged shooter in Utah. And you guys, that's something that they should at least clear up or acknowledge, but they're not talking about it. And all rabbit holes lead to the same place. So please think critically about this. And God bless.
Which, by the way, I actually just now that she mentioned that, I didn't know exactly what she'd say beforehand. But Andrew Colvett did address the $150 million. I will say he gave a lawyerly answer. I mean, I had the clip. I just didn't feel like it was kind of a couple days old at this point now. But it did take. Jay just recently commented on it. This was from like a couple days ago. So that connection, and it was very kind of downplayed and like, oh yeah, he had his issues, and like they very, very much like a like kind of vibe downplaying it. On the 150 million or just money question, they go, oh no, there's no way that would ever happen. Charlie would never take money from another country. So there, obviously, then everyone pointed out, like, yeah, that's not how that works. You would get money from like one of these, like an Ackman type, from some Zionist, some American Zionist billionaire or something. That's how this would work. Like that's the cutout. Israel gives Ackman money through some shape or some way, if they're not already just straight up a cutout of them, and then they give money to Kirk. So, and then to that too, what did he also say? Then he's like, yeah, he wouldn't. What was his other caveat? Like, and so then he put in like, oh, to my knowledge, no. So like so far as like from a legalistic standpoint, he didn't really, you very much see why it is his ass in there. So there could be that. I know a lot of people are like still back and forth. The 150 million thing was, from my understanding, only a claim from, because everyone keeps centering on that $150 million claim. Candace claimed there was money. She didn't claim an amount. And the $150 million was, I think, from Max Blumenthal's reporting. So we still don't know for sure about that. But either way, point being is like he downplayed it. He loved it. He had his issues with whatever was going on there. Very much downplayed it. And then, so he did address it. Just took a while, and it felt like I don't know, almost like, come on. Of course he wouldn't have taken money from, I guess maybe he would have, but I mean, for just being an intelligent person, he probably wouldn't have straight up took money from some fucking, literally Netanyahu. Here's $150 million. Thank you, sir. Like, obviously that's not how that's going to work. All right, let's roll through the chat, see what you guys say, and then we're going to get out of here. Yeah, I know, some of the schizo stuff is a bit much. I don't know. I mean, but it is like, you're like, fuck, I don't know. I mean, there's so much wild shit in the world. It's not that crazy. Gerald Hall says, my buddy was a Blackwater guy who did PSDs, which I'm not sure what PSD mean, but I'm assuming this means some sort of defense for VIPs or something, for some heavies, and they do drills like this. I'm assuming you're talking about earlier when I was going over the video and practicing. So Mike Mortal says, on second thought about the lapel mic being the weapon, you'd think his shirt would get burnt / torn up from an explosion. Well, that's the thing. The logic is that like he had that little pin thing and it was magnetic, and I think the idea is that like somehow, I guess it would destroy his shirt though. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really know the mechanics of that intent exactly. You guys can check out that theory on your own online. You can find it. So and then a lot of people are talking in the chat about how like, oh, why would they do this in plain sight? And that's what a lot of people go to. Oh, why do you do that in plain sight? Well, that's the best way to hide things. And also, I think to some extent, I don't think people would be analyzing it the way they do now. I do think maybe they just thought you could like, oh, look how obvious this is, and you can kowtow everyone out of it. And so I don't know. I mean, I do think part of like the magic sleight of hand is sometimes like if you just do it right in front of you, you don't notice it. So it's misdirection. All right. What else we got in here? Good morning, Paul. It's the first time I've seen you there. Since ancient times, ancient Roman times, bodyguards is the way they get to leaders. They either do it or let it happen. Aggressive agreeing says, I assume if this is Mossad, the entire thing would be organized to where you'd leave no speculation given you're at a university where everyone has a 4K camera on their phone. Just seems too sloppy. Perhaps. That or they've just gotten too full of themselves. I don't know. Someone said, I think you overestimate how most people react when gunshots go off. We've only seen, 50 videos from a crowd of 3,000. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to make of it. We're just kind of looking at it. I don't really know what to make of these people. Let me see what else we got in here before we bounce. Anything worthwhile? Do I have to get a mullet? Yes, you do. Fire Pixie. Yes, you do. Jose worked on airplanes that had a chain wallet. You should ask him. I actually have never had a chain wallet. I've never been a fan of chain wallets. I don't like chain wallets. Uncle Ted says Silva made the best point. It took the FBI 11 minutes to get there. Usually when they are involved, the FBI is there within minutes. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Although the FBI, I think a lot of times when it comes to like deep event conspiracies, I don't necessarily think the FBI is like ever. I don't think they're typically in on it. I think if anything, they're usually almost like the dupes that they just like fuck over and they leave them holding the bag. Many such cases where like, nah, like essentially CIA or some other glowy organization does some wild shit and then they just bounce out and go, fuck you, FBI, and then FBI has to do the cover up. That's what it feels like a lot to me. I mean, it feels kind of disrespectful to the FBI, but I mean, I still hate them too, but it's not really giving them an out. It's just kind of a funny dynamic, in my opinion. My connection sounds big shitty. Is my mic be giving issues or something? Let me make sure. Nope, it's working here. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know. Mic is clipping. Am I good now? Maybe I did something weird to it. I don't know. Check chat. It's getting hard to listen to. This is 20 minutes ago. Never mind. It's not just your mic. Huh. I guess I ran into some issues. Although I'm seeing everyone's saying it's fine now. That's weird. I get a couple of minutes where something was going off. I'm sorry about that. Is what it is. Let me see. Fire Pixie says, I watched the Netflix documentary on Charlie Sheen. I was quite surprised with how much it had to do with Nicolas Cage. I had no idea how weird that guy was. Yeah. He strikes me as an oddball for sure. I like him. Ain't heard a fucking word from this clip. Okay. I don't know which clip that was. Probably the movie clip. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. 53 people in chat, only 33 likes. Bump up those likes or leave it at 33. That's what my masters want. All right. What else we got in here? I should watch Falcon and the Snowman. Penn plays a young GWB. Let me see. All right. I can't watch the shit with his kids. Yeah, that's weird. I don't like that. So that's why I moved on for that real quick. Because, yeah, I mean, the idea of like, oh, no, he doesn't show his kids this or that. Of course he doesn't. Like, yeah, he's like one of the biggest influencers in the world. That's weird. So, Benny loves Johnson. Seems legit. That's a good play on words there. Wise Elk. Love that. Hit the like button, everyone. Hit like or you're Jewish. Also hit it like if you are Jewish. There's actually a lot of cool Jews out there. You'd be surprised. I've actually talked to quite a few like American Jews that fucking hate Israel, and so like, and if anything, it's a lot like because of the like, well, screw you, dude. Like, we're not fucking all ghouls like you. Let me see what else we got in here. The lady's nuts, but the wife is sus for sure. Says Tom33, perhaps. All right. Gerald says GSA, multiple award schedule, contract, then the contract numbers, contractor, Arizona Tech International. Contract covers NAICS codes covering something to something, saying those are Erica's mom's contracts. Okay, well, maybe somebody can do something with that. I don't really know what to make of that. Maybe that means something. So she speaks Hebrew? No way. Gerald Hall is saying she speaks Hebrew. If you can find something on that, like tag me if you can find somewhere she speaks Hebrew, because that'd be funny. I wouldn't be surprised though. Watch if TPSU does get the 150 million now after Kirk is gone. It's super sus. Yeah, that would be super sus. Although I don't feel like we'd know quite like we wouldn't really know that well. So Justin Valentine, but where does Israel get all this money? And no, it's not from the U.S., most of it anyway. I don't know. I don't really know off the top of my head exactly, I guess. I mean, I think it is. Isn't the whole idea is it's this weird scheme where they pull money from the diaspora and then pull from there, and then obviously they're getting money from us. So they're getting money from American Jews all over the place. Obviously, I'd assume like a large component of like all the off the books black operation stuff probably ends up funneled to there as well. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. So I don't know. I don't know if you have more to add to that, Justin. PSD equals private security details, says Gerald Hall. Yep. All right. Call caught up. Much love to all good Jews out there, says Gerald Hall. All right, let's go ahead and get on out of here. I think we've come to the end of today. I have a fun little outro for you guys. We got one more, just a final outro of one of the speeches from the funeral. I think you guys will enjoy. We missed this one. It was a beautiful one. But for those who want to support the show in the best way you really can, leave a like, or not in the best way you can. This is actually I said that wrong. This is for you fucking poors. I'm just kidding, but do it. Do it whether you're poor or not. Leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Don't forget, you can find me on YouTube, Rumble, pretty much anywhere you get podcasts at as well. I'm there, the No Way Jose podcast. Go check it out. And if you want to support me the best way you can, that's with money over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2, and you get access to about 1 to 2 episodes a week. Usually keep about 4 behind the paywall at any given time. For example, like that Ken episode I told you about, I have Nick coming back, Nick Bryan coming on next week to talk about Epstein and stuff like that. So, I mean, I have paywall stuff. You get that weeks before the pours. So when you help a brother out, you also get an ad-free RSS feed, so you don't have to listen to those pesky ads on audio anymore. You also get the access to Telegram. You can hang out. Hey, some of these perks, you don't even have to stick around for forever. You just got to pay me $2 like once, and then you can just like bounce. And then you can hang out in the Telegram for forever. And to be honest, I think you get the ad-free RSS feed too. I don't think I have a way to take away from you. So, yeah, it's a pretty goddamn good deal. You also get access to the pre-show, the post-show, and access to the video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Austin's going to be out again next week, so holler if you got any guest suggestions. I probably should get a guest. The highest level is my sponsors, and I give them a big shout-out every episode as a big thank you for their support. I have my previous co-hosts in Tower Gang, at Learn to Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _InfiniteZeal, Tim Tuttle, at John Klebold, Will Bell's Delicious Blueberry Rabbit Eye Wine, big fan of the show, Torrin May, at Wayne Taculus, The Catcher in the Rye, and Mark Vestibule. And with that, guys, I love you all. We're going to get out of here. Enjoy this outro. I think you will like it. Let me see if there's anything funny in there. Justin Valentine says Soros doesn't have nearly enough money to do the stuff that bears his name. He's just the face of it. That the one you're allowed to hate. Oh yeah, there was some news about Soros and some stuff there. So hit the like button, people, before you leave. Please do. Let me see. What the hell? Right now I'm gonna call. I'm getting some weird call. Check on that in a minute. Love you all, everybody. Bye bye. Everyone's saying bye bye. Bye. Telegram's legit. It sure is. Bye, everyone. Guys, get Kurt on the show. Danny Jokes, somebody, hit him up. All right, guys, enjoy this outro. Love you all. Bye-bye. Deuces.
Der Sturm flüstert dem tapferen Krieger leise zu, dass du meiner unüberwindlichen Stärke und meiner unerbittlichen Macht nicht standhalten kannst. Und der Krieger flüstert zurück, ich bin der Sturm. Erika ist der Sturm. Wir sind der Sturm und unsere Feinde können unsere Stärke, unsere Entschlossenheit, unseren Willen, unsere Leidenschaft nicht begreifen. Unsere Abstammung und unser Vermächtnis reichen zurück nach Athen, nach Rom, nach Philadelphia, nach Monticello. Unsere Vorfahren haben die Städte gebaut. Sie schufen die Kunst und die Architektur. Sie bauten die Industrie. Erika steht auf den Schultern von tausenden Jahren von Kriegern, von Frauen, die Familien großgezogen haben, Städte aufgebaut haben, Industrie geschaffen haben, Zivilisation erschaffen haben, die uns aus den Höhlen und der Dunkelheit ins Licht geführt haben. Das Licht wird die Dunkelheit besiegen. Wir werden über die Mächte der Bosheit und des Bösen siegen. Sie können sich nicht vorstellen, was sie erweckt haben. Sie können sich nicht ausmalen, welche Armee sie in uns allen entfacht haben. Denn wir stehen für das Gute, das Tugendhafte, das Edle. Und an diejenigen, die versuchen, Gewalt gegen uns zu schüren, die Hass gegen uns entfachen wollen, was habt ihr? Ihr habt nichts. Ihr seid nichts. Ihr seid Bosheit. Ihr seid Eifersucht. Ihr seid Neid. Ihr seid Hass. Ihr seid nichts. Ihr könnt nichts aufbauen. Ihr könnt nichts hervorbringen. Ihr könnt nichts erschaffen. Wir sind diejenigen, die aufbauen. Wir sind diejenigen, die erschaffen. Wir sind diejenigen, die die Menschheit emporheben. Ihr dachtet, ihr könntet Charlie Kirk töten. Ihr habt ihn unsterblich gemacht. Ihr habt Charlie Kirk unsterblich gemacht. Und nun werden Millionen sein Vermächtnis weitertragen.